This is the Newmarket Budget Committee meeting for December 19th. It's about 6:35 p.m. And our first item is to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we just got the minutes from Monday, and I think we should skip those, but we should vote and act on the minutes from December 10th. If that's okay.
Motion to accept the minutes of December 10th
Is there a second?
as presented.
I'll second that. All right, any comments or revisions or corrections? Ellen?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
First, Amy.
Go ahead.
I just had a question on the vote to move the meeting at the very end. I was scanning it. I thought that someone abstained from voting, and I
Russ.
just wanted to make sure.
Well, that was on
No, that
last
was- that was-
Monday night. He did that. This is December 10th.
Oh, this is, okay, sorry.
It's okay.
See how fast
If
I
you were
read it?
able to read yesterday, today, the minutes we got today, that's awesome. But I
You know.
didn't even print it out.
I didn't get them.
I got them.
There's the typos on the first page. Is that significant? Should I just give them to her? or-
What, these?
Why don't you mention what the typos are, so it's,
Okay.
and then you can have them shared through Kathy.
Okay, so page 1, under fire rescue, third sentence, the radios were originally purchased 10 years ago. I think that's supposed to say.
Yeah, it says 2 years
Instead
ago.
of it says
Two.
TO, it should be 10.
Yeah, that's good.
And then, skip the next sentence, and the auditors had removed the radios from the CIP. I think it's the auditors had suggested removing the radios from the CIP. The auditors said. And then it should say, the next sentence should say a CIP. P is missing.
Uh-huh. That sounds like what I remember. Anything else that people will see as revisions to that meeting?
Sorry, page 3.
Yeah, just speak up so that she can hear you.
Buildings and grounds, first paragraph. Mr. Glennon, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said, as you remember, the council reduced some positions. I think you did say that, because that's what they did. And then it should be, it should be reduced instead of adding that word after council.
Thank you for catching it.
And then the fourth line where it said, he said they had also, this was Rick Malasky talking, he said they had also stopped mowing for the Conservation Commission, and I believe they've reduced the amount of mowing. There's still some mowing, right? So it should say it reduced the amount rather than
Correct,
stopped. That's it.
Great. And if you're unable to get those, looking at her, she's not here, but those corrections, you can follow up with Ellen Snyder directly. Anything else on the December 10th minutes? All right, all those in favor of the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you. We'll do the December 10th, at the next 17th, and tonight's at the next meeting. All right, so now we turn our attention back to the school budget, and at the last meeting, we finished the elementary school as well as technology. I'm assuming we'll start with the junior middle, but I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Well, the only thing that I had before I start that, today you should have received information from Christine and from me. Hopefully everybody got that. There was one loose end that with a communication that was really more with Amy and I, and it was around the laptop cart. If you remember at last meeting, people were wondering about the laptop cart, which had been budgeted for this year for the elementary school. And if you didn't see the email, the simple answer to that is the new principal came in and looked at that and felt the money was much better spent to get laptops for his teachers, because his teachers were dealing with really outdated technology. And it didn't make sense to put state-of-the-art in kids' hands while the teachers had. So anyway, that was his rationale, and I agreed with that, and so he used it to buy 28 laptops. And so to answer your questions that went from there, we purchased some Lenovo, it says Lenovo Edge E is what it describes here. They were $520 a piece for a total then of $14,040. the number you mentioned on page 53, the 54,525, that has nothing to do with this. That was the total amount for purchase of the new accounting software, the SOU office.
Okay.
That
thank
cost
you.
was totally taken out of the trust fund. The purchase of these laptops was done because that was in the operating budget, came out of the operating budget.
And, just to be clear, because this wasn't discussed at the meeting, but Dr. Hayes sent out an email today explaining the Apple iCare cost. And then that spurred another question that Amy asked via email, that asked about, what about the laptops, and you answered that, so that's what you're explaining. I just want the public to understand where this
Yes.
is coming from. Those emails are available if people want to actually see them.
Right, and it was, and again, to clarify, it was asking ahead of time, as a simple question, that he present it tonight in public,
Right.
just so that he would have a chance to pull the numbers together.
Yeah. Is it about this?
It's about the email today.
Sure.
You said that there were some Retina computers that you decided not to
iPad,
get?
there are two iPads that Apple is now
iPads, yes.
marketing, yes.
Mhm.
And one is iPad 2. Another one is with iPad with Retina display. It's a different model, a little more enhanced display.
Much higher
Yeah.
definition.
It isn't,
High definition.
you don't have to like use your eye to,
No.
That's what I'm going.
No, it's not.
Is this the CIA or is this the
No,
high school?
no.
Okay.
But what happened was I told them I wanted 25. And then when they showed me that it only comes in bundles of 10 and that the loose 5 ones were going to cost a lot more, it made much more sense. Let's get this third bundle of 10 is what I did.
All right, thanks.
I
Amy?
guess my only other question is that the Lenovo's are a PC, a Windows-based computer, from my understanding. So
Right.
again, I have the question of, maybe it's just apps or whatever, but the teachers are not running now on an operating system. The
But let me-
iPads are on the Apple and the Mac
But
system.
the operating
so
system
I'm
can
having
handle them
questions.
both. It can handle them both. Remember, those, right now, we are very much a PC environment.
Right,
The iPads are part of a pilot program, which we expect will be productive and be expanded, but it's a pilot program, and teachers in the pilot program will be getting MacBooks, MacBook Airs, they're called.
which is also part
So,
of this proposal.
and it was all part of that
That's really-
proposal. So
Okay.
they're separate. In time, if again, it all plays out well, we see at least the high school perhaps being an Apple environment, and not sure about the remaining grades. But that's how it looks right now.
Okay.
So before we go into the rest of it, I did print out that schedule that Steve Forner sent around. I
Yes,
think it
I
would be
have a copy
helpful
here, too.
if everybody
Yes.
has that, so.
Okay.
This is from the Municipal Association, Local Government Center, and it's just for a March town meeting vote, since there's been some questions about certain deadlines. This is their official guide that they give to municipalities and school districts. And I believe, after our flurry of emails about this, Dr. Hayes, and hopefully
Yes.
we're on the same
I
page,
think we are.
is that we have scheduled our public hearing for January 14th, which means it must be posted by January 7th as to its location and time. By state law, any contracts, collective bargaining unit contracts, have to be posted on the warrant by January 8th. So that's essentially the deadline for the school district and the union to come together on an agreement, is January 8th. So that's just so everybody's clear about the time frame that there is available for them to.
Right, and I will explain that to the union as well. For us, January 2nd is when we negotiate again. I think everybody on both teams realizes it's our last day. And so if we have successful and get an agreement, then they'll have to get it ratified before then, and the school board will have to act as well before the 8th.
And you could potentially, I would think, you could post a warrant article that says it, but without the numbers, and then adjust the numbers later.
Mm-hmm.
So if you reach an agreement and
Yeah.
you think it's gonna get ratified, but it's not gonna get ratified in time, just
Not
post
time.
it.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can.
Yes.
That's my understanding, but clarify that
Yeah.
with legal counsel.
Yes, okay.
I verified that with DRA.
You
That
did. You
it's
can
just
do
a
that?
formality.
Okay.
The main concern that we have is we have to have that meeting posted no later than January 7th.
Right, and then if you post
Because if
that,
you
there is
don't-
gonna be a collective bargaining, and then there isn't, oh well.
Exactly.
Right,
And if
Can't
it
go the
changes.
other way.
right.
Correct.
And then, the last date for the other one that's significant for us is the last date to post the warrant of the budget and the warrant articles with our recommendations. That's January 28th. So we're not gonna meet January 28th because that's not fair to the staff that has to do all the work. So we will be meeting sometime between January 14th and January 26th or 7th so that we can make our final recommendations and decisions. If it happens that we decide on the night of the public hearing and make our decisions on the budget, and then there's additional warrant articles that are finalized, we will have to meet again to vote on those. But we can do that. And I haven't sent out the email about dates, but that'll happen probably after Christmas. So. And we've got time. Anybody have any questions about this, or just thought it'd be helpful? All right, we're ready to turn back to wherever you wanted to restart.
Page 20. In the middle of page 20 is a table that shows our enrollments for grades 6 through 12. Essentially, we have the same enrollment projected as what we are experiencing this year, so there's no decline, no real increase. It's about the same number of students graduating as the same number projected coming into 6th grade. So that bubble has not hit us yet. The other thing, again, just to set the scene if people didn't see us the other night, 81% of this budget is composed of salaries and benefits. And so there are a lot of account line numbers here, we've already gone through a description of the benefits, and so I really don't go through those. And what I try to do is just highlight for everybody what are the staffing elements to this, and then in the other aspects of the operating budget, what are the typically the highlights, what are the unusual circumstances. Very much so, this is started out as a level program budget. And a level program budget turned out to be a 5% increase, and the school board took took the steps to reduce that to something under 3, and they got it down to 2.84%. But that was achieved by cutting the equivalent of 5.5 positions from our schools and some other adjustments as well. But anyway, that got us down to a 2.84% increase. And I just want to say that stuff for folks that are watching this and haven't seen the other part. So tonight, first dealing with the high school on page 21, 1,100. Again, those are all regular education expenses. Under professional salaries, if you look at the narrative down below, you'd see it tells you that there are 41 regular education teachers in grades 9 through 12. 39.5 in the middle school, and then let's see.
17.25 in middle school.
Right, 17.25 in middle school and 22.25 at the high school.
I think it's those 41 different teachers, but a
And
total.
a 39.5 FTE, that's right.
So that's actually grades 6 through 12, right?
So it's 6 through 12, yes. Yeah, with, again, 17.25, 17.25 at the middle school.
This does not include any paras, does it?
That's just teachers. That's the teacher
Special.
line, and paras will be under the special ed on the next page. The next thing that jumps out at me here, let's see. What's on there? All those benefits, so pretty much it's all of that. The next thing, scholar supplies. Again, to explain this for some folks at home, that as at the elementary school, we do the same at the high school. What we do is we budget a lump sum amount, and we put it in one account, which is called scholar supplies. And the principal then has the discretion, once the budget's approved, to spend that money, to reapportion that money to a lot of other accounts, nursing supplies, library media supplies, you name it. English as a second language, a lot of different areas. And so for us, it's much easier to manage. We really like site-based management. And once the budget's approved, I want the principal to be closer to the start of the school year and have the discretion to reapportion the money at that time. So that's why you see so much under scholar supplies. You see a lot of zeros and other supply kinds of accounts.
A question on
Go
the
ahead.
scholar supplies. I noticed that the budget for last year on that was 42 and change, and the actual for last year was 40,000 and change. Now you're looking for, you had 108,000 approved, and this time around you're looking for almost 95,000.
That's right.
Now, why not keep it closer? Instead of doing the 94,000, why not ask for what you historically used, which is 40,000? I mean, that's a $54,000 bump in scholar supplies.
Because we had to trim the budget back.
Well, I think what, excuse me.
You're
Well, I think
you're
under-
increasing it.
No, Roseanne,
Not at all, no.
that $94,000
Mhm.
is broken down, that covers different accounts, not just the 1,100. If you look below under the actual, see how we spent 40,000 to 378 and then the 39 and the 13,000. Now look to the right of the column under the FY14, see how that's all zeros? That 94,000 gets broken out into different departments of the school.
Mhm.
So that goes for the nurses, the guidance, special ed, regular ed. It's not 95,000 to 40,000. It's reallocated and revised once the budget gets approved and the principal has the authorization to disseminate that funds however he chooses to allocate his budget.
But was the 40,000 that was actually used last year used for one specific line item?
Yes.
Or was it used
Yes.
for all
Yes,
these that
it
are
was.
following?
Yes.
No, it's for that one line item.
Just for that one item, because the last year, the budget began with numbers in all of these different accounts. It was only going into this year that we started this new process of putting it all into scholar supplies,
Mhm.
and then once the budget's approved, then distributing it to other accounts. So that's why last year and this year were different in that regard.
So we talked about this on Monday night, so what I think I discussed, which I think helped, was let's just pretend it's a year from now and you're talking about the fiscal year 15 budget, you would have a column that says fiscal year 14 approved, and let's just pretend it's these numbers.
Yeah.
Then you'd have revised,
Mhm.
and that $94,000 would be different. It would be split out amongst the categories that the principal decides are the priorities, which would likely include textbooks, mentor supplies, technology software, all these things below that are zero, plus in other areas of the high school budget, like we talked about the nurse.
Yes,
Getting
her
supplies or
supplies.
something
She
like that.
comes out of, that was explained.
Right.
She comes out of that
It
scholar
all comes
supplies.
out.
And I'll also note that there is a comment under, in the narrative below, under the 1100 3610, it also tells you, it makes reference to the accounts that it also applies to
Right.
down below. So you can track it that way as well to verify that.
I mean, I think, I made the comment that it makes it a little bit harder for us, but for the management of staff and the needs of the school, it provides the appropriate, well, what I think is an appropriate level of flexibility and it's an administrative decision about how to.
Is it just like regrouping, reallocating
Yes.
through a different subtitle?
Well, it's like
As opposed to
instead
each separate
of
category?
making the little teeny decisions about which
Right.
textbook to replace 18 months in advance, you're
Right.
letting the principal make that
Yeah.
year at the
So
beginning.
it's kind of taking different categories into one other subcategory and renaming it. It's going to be distributed from that
And then
process.
distribute it later on.
And then it's shown, then you actually put it where you think it's, where it gets spent, so you can track it more detailed.
Right.
So it's a little bit extra analysis or understanding for us.
Yeah, I can understand. It makes it easier for administrative side. However, if it comes to us like we are now trying to, think about how this is going to work 2 years down the road,
It's gonna
we
be
can
clear.
see how it all came about. Yeah, I
Right.
agree.
As long as the 2 years down the road, you don't
Stay consistent.
change back.
Yeah, that's the key.
Well, I don't
That's the
plan
key.
to.
Does that help?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. The only other thing on that page that I would comment about is the third account up from the bottom. And it's a small amount of money, But replacement of furniture is something that doesn't happen very often. And, but we have some circumstances in the school where they're in deplorable condition, and the top priority here, replacing chairs in the chemistry and biology classrooms. And so you see a $1,400 number there, where, and if you look at the current year, nothing was budgeted there. But then with the principal's discretion, he put $2,345 into that need. So we do have some pressing needs, as we have somewhat outdated technology. We have really outdated furniture that is unsafe. That's usually the judgment. So.
Roseanne?
I did notice that. My husband and I took the tour of the school. We did notice some of the furniture wasn't rather poor. But what troubles me is under that 1,100,3,737, you had budgeted $3,700, and you actually used zero of it. You didn't use any of it last year, if I'm reading this correct. So you were appropriated $3,700.
It was, and it was not
and you
used.
didn't use it, and
right.
then last year they didn't approve anything, and then this year revised, you're getting looking for $1,400. And going through this today, I mean, I have a lot of pink. I notice several accounts, several line items where you've appropriated a dollar amount, and then the money spent is either extremely underspent compared to what you appropriated for, or it's not spent at all.
That's correct.
And to me, this page alone, I mean, it appears to me that you're asking for money in certain areas that you either don't use or you're not going to use, and I seem to find that historically, and evidence of that is you have a surplus left at the end of the year every year. And I wouldn't mind giving you what you really think you need, just in case something does break or something, you have a few extra dollars in there. But when year after year, you do have a surplus, and you want to apply that to other reserve funds, that to me tells me that you're over budgeting in the first place. And I would have an easier time approving any budget if at the end of that year what you don't spend goes back into the pot and not back into that department. I really have a problem, and I noticed a lot of that.
I understand. Let me respond. It sounds like you want to respond too, but last year's numbers last year was I hope was a unique situation for a couple reasons. One is we had to put on a budget freeze very early in the year, and so some of those accounts where things weren't expended, we only allowed purchases of an emergency, gotta have kind of nature, or else the money was not going to be spent in order for us to balance at the end of the year. And then we had the state kind of reneged on its, right? State reneged on its retirement, so we had to cut even more money to make sure it all balanced. So, which was somewhere around $283,000. So to make that all work, we had to take those hits, that's significant, in the budget. As it was, we closed last year, but we had to access the trust funds to make it finally balance. So we were really pressed last year, and that's why you're going to see a lot of things unexpended, because we had to cover some unanticipated problems.
That is absolutely right. No, the only thing I would add is that I just want to make it clear that the fund balance that we had remaining that we turned over this year was due to 2 warrant articles that were not fully expended. So that wasn't anything to do with the operating budget not fully utilizing our budget by any means. It was strictly the warrant articles. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, that we do try to do our very best with our budget, and our staff did a phenomenal job with helping us minimize the impact when we had the budget freeze. And I applaud them because we made that happen. And this is the ramification of it, is you'll see throughout the budget that our athletic department couldn't get some of the equipment that they want, supplies, furniture, every area was affected as much as possible, unfortunately, but that's what happens.
Any other questions? Oh, Helen?
I have actually a question on page 20.
Okay.
Can you just explain, just look at the grand totals,
last year and then current year, the actuals are higher than the budgets. So is that because of the warrant articles? There's a little bit of an explanation above, it talks about the warrant articles. Is that why the actuals are above the actual budget?
Let me just review, because this is a budget summary.
It's gotta be use of capital reserve.
I'm assuming it is, but I don't see it listed out, so I just,
Well, this is only showing you the expenses, it doesn't show you the source.
Right.
right, that's why I
So, but
can't
if you
get a
look-
full
If
picture
you look
of
at,
what,
like, look at building maintenance, it's $500,000, $300,000 higher than
Yeah.
what was budgeted.
yeah,
so
well, I mean,
Right.
would that be used to some of the
Ceiling
special
work.
work?
I think, I was gonna say, like a building maintenance, it's 810,000, which is actual, that's just, that has the,
Because they,
it has the ceiling project in there, I mean,
Right. It just might be worth a sentence.
It's a
like,
good point,
you know,
yeah, I
to
vaguely
explain that.
recall.
Can't extend
Yeah.
that.
Right, that's.
but I can't, I wish I could pinpoint, but I can't with through this.
Right, that's okay, I don't need the specific, but just maybe a sentence to say
Yep, thank you.
that it's
Absolutely.
above because of CIP expenditures, so people know that you didn't go over the
No, that's a
approved
great
budget, right?
recommendation.
That means because they pulled money from the CIP.
That sounds
Well,
good.
Okay.
I think what we could do is we could show the CIP, the trust funds
Separately.
are separately
Okay.
in its
Okay.
own line,
Or
so
put
then
an
we can just
asterisk.
back it out.
Yep.
Showing that that's the source of revenue.
Yep, absolutely. No, that's
good,
great.
good point.
Thanks, Alan.
That's all right. Page 22. Again, we go by functions here, so the 1,200 function are for special ed expenditures in the school, special ed accounts. In terms of personnel, we have 14 special ed positions, but it's a 12.0 FTE, so we do have some part-time positions there. 3 of our positions are grant funded. Similar to the elementary, this is the account where the special education building coordinator is budgeted. And you may recall the elementary, we made the full cut at the elementary school, and thus we held on to the full salary in this account. But eventually what you will see is that we're going to reduce one of the 2 positions, we haven't decided which, and then that will become a district-wide position. But anyway, it's fully budgeted here, whereas it wasn't budgeted at all for the elementary school. Paraprofessionals you asked about, we have 19 paraprofessionals here
19.
At the school, and 2 of them are grant funded. Any place in here where positions are grant funded, we try to mention, we do mention them,
Okay.
but obviously they're not budgeted in the line item.
Now, that 19 was from where, Dr. Hayes?
Those are 19 paraprofessionals.
19, okay.
Yes.
And they just do in the special ed program, or are they all through?
No, it's all special ed.
Those
Yes.
19 just go
Yes,
to the
they are.
special ed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead, Roseanne.
Then we get.
How
we
many
have-
students do we have in the ESOL?
In ESOL, I don't know. High school principal? We have one right now.
Just one?
And last year we had
That's a lot lower than it has
4,
historically.
3, 4?
So we have one ESOL teacher for that one student?
Yeah, go ahead, 'cause I think there's more to it than that.
Oh,
There's one student that qualifies by state testing for ESOL services, and it's pretty significant. But she also does communication with parents. It's the students, when parents are coming in, she needs to communicate and do a lot of meetings with the parents so they understand what's going on.
so there could be other students that don't need the
they're-
tutoring, but the parents need.
Correct, but there's also kids that are on monitor status. They don't get direct service through the ESOL tutor, but they do get services in the classroom from her because their skills are shown by state testing that they should be well enough in the classroom, but they still do need a ton of support. But on state testing, they do not qualify for direct instruction, but they do get services for support.
You put, I mean, the goal for an ESOL program is for students to get enough skills to be fully on their own in regular education. So once they get to that point, then they leave the direct services component, but the teacher still monitors their performance. If they do well, that's great, but if they don't, then they come back in for more support.
So they not just monitor the child, but the parents also?
And they work well.
through that process? Just say yes.
Yes, they work with the parents through,
Well, thank you.
similar to a guidance counselor, but
Yeah,
it's really.
almost like that, okay.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Judy.
Question, how many special ed students do you have in the junior, senior high school?
Defer that to Jean.
Jean?
I don't know the exact breakdown. We have.
Podium, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We have 280 district-wide. There's about, no, 180, I'm gonna say 180 district-wide, I'm wrong, 180
That
district-wide.
makes sense.
Yeah, and there's about 95 at the junior, senior, and the rest are at the elementary and the preschool. I could get you an exact number, but that's very close.
So that's 85.
85? All
It's
right.
180 minus
85.
Any other questions on page 22? That's all I have.
So that's 85 of 479. So about 18-20%, just like it was.
That's what she said.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Right.
Great.
416.
Yes, did mess that math up. Under pressure.
So on page 20, on page 23, the first function that's there, the 1,300 functions, that's school to career. You'll notice the string of zeros in the beginning because that position, which had been a half-time coordinator position, has been reduced, has been cut by the school board in this budget. So all the salary and benefits lines are at zero. However, it's clearly our intention to continue providing career and experiences, school to career experiences for these kids. So there still are items budgeted, as you see there, for transportation to workshops, supplies, dues, and so forth. The other thing that's included in there, which is really separate from what the coordinator dealt with, career and technical education line, the 560 object, that covers our tuition for 60 students going to the Seco School of Technology. So it's 60 students, their tuition rate went up considerably because of their expenses going up, contracts, retirement, same driving issues that we had. And it's $2,133 per student, arrives at that figure of almost $128,000.
I'm sorry, that figure per student again?
2,133.
What was the
A
other?
question on the advisor salaries, a little further down.
Okay.
It says clubs in the narrative. Class club and activity advisors. Some clubs will not be funded depending on level of student interest participation. What clubs are they in
Did you
activities?
go on
Okay, so there's a laundry list of clubs for the advisor stipends. They range from French club, department head, National Honor Society, yearbook, drama club, outing club, junior high math team, National Honor Society, athletic leadership teams, ceramic club, science club, science department chair, student
that? The
council.
department chairs are somewhere else, just so you get that.
Oh, this one says, okay, that might be something else,
They're
sorry.
listed under advisor stipends, but I think they're budgeted under administration.
Okay, cheerleading, penguin plunge, it says no stipend there, however, that one definitely deserves a stipend. International club, part of that, I guess, is Junior National Honor Society, Gay and Lesbian Alliance, no stipend, woodworking, and youth and government, Granite State Challenge. So,
That's why we didn't list them. This is a long list.
I can email this list if you like?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Oh, and Roots and Shoots on this one, sorry, and Chick Flick Club.
What is a chick flick club?
I would have to defer that, I do not know the answer to that.
Roseanne wants to go.
I just saw it last second, I'm like, oh wait, I missed another one.
There's
What's
a
the
stipend for that?
stipend for that?
That would be $400.
Yes.
The Granite State thing, is that the one that's on TV?
Granite State Challenge,
Yeah.
yes it is.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 23?
No.
Okay, page 24. The 14-15 function, that's for athletics. Coaches' salaries being the biggest piece of this. We have a coach's pay scale. I can't remember if I put it in the back. I think I did. That's fine. No, I didn't include it this year because it didn't change. So we have a pay scale that's been in place for, I'm about ready to say decades, and we're almost there at decades, but it's been in place for a long time. And, but we hire coaches, and it has a scale of steps and a ladder, just like what teachers have. And so there are some increases there. What we do is we take the coaching staff now and project them into the salaries they earn if they were staying with us for the year. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And so that's what drives some of the increase here. One new sport, though, is proposed in this, and that's that cheerleading become a JV sport. Cheerleading has been I'll call it a club, and I think you just read it off in there. It's been a club activity for 2 years, maybe 3 years, and it's proven itself viability. And so the goal all along was if it proves itself as annually viable, then we're going to make it a sport. It's an NHIA recognized, and so we want to provide that for our students, and so there's a stipend that is higher than the 400 that was just mentioned. The rest are pretty routine things: supplies, officials. The only thing that's a bit of a wrinkle, if you look in the supply account, 610, you see that it jumps up. This year, and I think Chris could tell you more if you wanted to hear more, NHIA came out and made some new guidelines regarding uniforms for, let's see, was it soccer and basketball?
Just basketball.
That's 610.
It's just basketball.
For basketball. And so we have to replace those uniforms in order to be in compliance with their new guidelines. And so that has added to our expense. Any other questions on 24?
I just wanted to ask, I know last year you proposed redoing
I did.
the scale for the coaches, and I think, I thought it was a good idea, but I know we didn't approve that,
Yeah.
budget committee. Is there a reason you didn't try to do that?
Same
initially?
thing, trying to reduce it down from that 5%.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was,
But you decided not to put that forward again?
yeah, if you, let me look on page, let's see. Oh, we cut it out before that, right. We cut it out before we even showed the board.
We decided
We
not
tried
to.
trying to get it down under 5%, we had to. I forget, usually that new scale was somewhere in the vicinity of an $8,000 to $10,000 bump.
Okay.
And we just felt we couldn't afford it this year.
Where's the, I know we talked about it at some point, but where's the cost for the football?
That is under other professional services, the 330, 415, 330. We have it's a $10,000 agreement that we have with Epping on the football contract.
So,
It'd be good if that were noted in
yeah,
the
it should be.
notation.
Yeah.
Because
That's quite
that's
a
what I was
lot of
going to
money.
ask about, because other professional services has been budgeted at 4,500, then it was 11,000, then budgeted at 4,500, then it was revised to 12,000. Even at 12,000, if 10,000 that's football, then you only have $2,000 for the trainer, but the trainer is $1,500 a session, so it sounds like it's under budgeted this season. There's what, 3 seasons?
I agree with you, it sounds it, but I don't
Right,
think it is.
we have an agreement with Epping
Right.
to not exceed the 10,000, and typically we're spending about $7,500.
So football is more likely 7,500.
But
And the
we're-
remainder is trainers.
Our liability is 10,000,
But
it
you-
can be up to, but.
I'll add a note in the
Okay.
improved document.
Do we have to pay for their transportation over there?
No.
Well, that's part of it. They go over there.
Their money goes towards, just as I just described, uniforms, officials, coaches' stipends. That's our
But the
con-
students get from Newmarket there on their own?
They're on their own.
So this 12,000 is 10,000 for the actual give it to the school, and the other 2,000 is just for uniforms and supplies?
I think the better way to look at it is if the trainer is $1,500 per season, so there's $4,500.
Okay.
So draw that away, and then the rest is to cover.
The liability under the contract is up to 10,000, but historically it's been 7,500-ish. Okay, I know I missed hands
Do you
over here,
follow
I'm
that?
sorry.
No, I don't.
We have a contract with
Don't-
Epping.
I'm not comprehending this.
We have a contract with Epping.
Yeah,
that
which
the
is
football-
10,000.
That the football will not exceed 10,000, will not
Oh,
exceed.
Not
okay, so it's
exceed.
not a $10,000.
And it depends on our,
gift.
it depends on our
Our
level.
cap liability is $10,000.
Right.
Okay,
And-
liability.
We've
Yes.
not hit that, and so we budgeted
And our
less.
past experience has been roughly about $7,500 a season, if you will, a year season. So,
Okay, I guess I understand something. I want to know for our own participation, not our liability, which is 10,000, but what do we actually pay Epping as
$7,500.
roughly
$7,500 out of that
$7,500.
10,000?
It depends on the number of students that participate in the program.
Oh, so it's based on numbers of participation?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
All right, so everybody, just a reminder, just raise your hands, and if I don't ignore you, get somebody closer to, if I ignore you, just get somebody closer to nudge me, because it's a little harder because we're more square. We're more square. Roseanne and Amy.
One thing for the officials here on number 314, budgeted last year was 19 and change, this year was 11, almost 12,000. Now, are you expecting to play that many more games that you're gonna need $7,500 extra? I mean, aren't the games pretty, common each year, they play the same amount of games and so forth, or?
What line are we on? I missed what
She's
line.
looking at
Officials.
officials,
Officials.
314.
Yeah.
You've got a
The-
difference of 7,500, which is enough to pay for the,
'Cause-
Epping game.
Yeah, the cost for the officials went up, and I'm trying to see if I thought I noted it down below, so just bear with me just a second. The official fees did go up. In the scheme of things, it's $560. However, the breakdown of our varsity games and our junior varsity games being official have changed. We try to, and Chris, and tell me if I'm wrong, we try to, at best, schedule games together so that we can better utilize the officials. However, with the scheduling, that's not always applicable. So I have a breakdown of what it costs for our soccer, our basketball, and our baseball and softball. And we will be paying about $19,696 in officials.
That's if
There's
you
supportive
don't-
documentation
That's
for it.
if you're not able to schedule the games at the same times, but the majority of
Correct.
the games, as evident in the 11,000, you are able to schedule some together.
That's correct, that's
So-
my understanding, unless you
So
want to.
therefore, the 19, almost 20,000 is a rather,
The number you see,
Trust me.
Roseanne, we have to budget for every game that we schedule. You
Mhm.
have to have a certain line item. It's a larger cost for varsity games than it is JV games. It's a flat
Yeah.
rate that is
Mhm.
set. The 11,000 you see is because we did not have JV sports in certain categories. That's why we only spent 11,000. 19,000 would be the maximum we would pay if we had a full season in every varsity sport, in every JV sport. But for example, we do not have a JV girls basketball team this year. So we'll save money in officiating, but we have to cover ourselves if we do have full numbers for each sport.
so if you're down a JV team from, you had a JV basketball last year,
We did not have a JV girls basketball.
and you
team
don't
this
have
year.
one this year.
We do not, but you do not know the numbers from every year. You have 30 girls try out, you're gonna have a JV girls team and a varsity team. You have to budget for those teams.
Okay.
And when you're looking at advance, there's no way to know based on your
Ah.
numbers.
Because we're budgeting 18 months out.
You have to, yeah. So you cover yourself with the maximum number of games you play per the officials. And that's why there's a saving of $7,000 because we did not have JV games.
And maybe while you're up here, Chris, the field maintenance,
But
it's we spent 129, I don't expect that to change.
field maintenance.
Yeah, for field
We get a
maintenance.
lot for the town, so it helps out. So that's why you see that number.
$400 difference or
There's a $441, yeah, you can
And again,
add up
keep in mind, there was a
400
budget freeze, so those are some of the things that we had to cut, and wherever we could cut, we've asked all
All right.
departments to please.
Well, maybe you guys
It's a
should give
need
us
versus a
less
want.
details.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amy.
Less details. I like that one, Brian.
You'll get as many questions. It's fine.
Roseanne just hit one of mine, so the other one is 3610, last year, which is supplies, last year actual. 3191, this proposal, 7,000, we've more than doubled. I understand from the notes that a variety of supplies are necessary and we need some increases and whatever. Is there an opportunity to do, to get this equipment in another way and not have it be in the operating budget, i.e. private fundraisers or bake sales or something? Is that something that has to be that high in the budget?
Well, I can tell you, and I'd be happy to have the principal speak if you'd like to too, but athletes make a big commitment as it is to participate in their season. And fundraising to get basic necessities is not something that I think is a reasonable expectation for them. Oftentimes what they'll do is do fundraising for things over and above the basic necessities, like some special sweats or warm-up jackets and things of that sort. So they do, correct? They do those fundraising things, but over and above what we feel is the basic outfitting of a team that we as a district do.
Is that something that might be, are there grants that can be done? I know that's a lot of paperwork, but I'm just, okay.
Not really, not really.
For example,
And do any of the athletes pay for their equipment or pay any fees of any type to play in any of the school activities?
We do not charge fees, no.
Not for uniforms and things like that, but I can tell you, having had kids that
Yeah.
played on several teams, the sneakers are $100, and they all have to have the same kind of sneaker, you know, it's
Right.
a team thing.
It's not a zero cost.
Families are paying money.
Yeah, but don't a
Yeah,
lot of
it's a-
schools do pay to play?
Not really in New
Help
Hampshire,
with the
some other states, but New Hampshire, it's a handful of schools. I think.
so there's minimum things that are provided, like uniforms. But if you gotta buy your own cleats,
Yeah.
Right.
Shin
your own
pads.
shin guards.
Yeah.
Things of that
We
sort.
provide helmets.
Right,
I mean,
so we have a basic outfitting that we do, if there are needs over and above, they either buy it personally or they fundraise to buy
it's first aid, things like that.
Great.
And I would also mention that there is a boosters club that does a ton of fundraising for a lot of other things to benefit different programs. Trying to think some of the big things they've done. I mean, I think they've done things with scoreboards, they've done bleachers,
Sure.
that, you know, things like that, things that, you know, other things that weren't part of the budget but are really, you know, really needed, like a scoreboard.
Overall, I mean, it's about, what is that, 90,000?
That whole section is up about 21,000.
It's about,
Proposed versus actual, sorry.
it. I don't know.
well, but if it's proposed, if it's year to year of the budget, I understand the desire, but the explanation for the official cost, that there's a rationale there that's logical, it's not like arbitrary decision.
Right.
Well, we didn't have for
Oh, you're comparing it to actual from.
She was,
Yes,
yes.
right, I see.
But year to year, it's for budget amount, based
Right.
on the possibility of full, whether you want to argue that you shouldn't budget for full formula teams is another thing. Any other questions?
You know, I'm wondering if, I don't know if you know, how robust the junior high, you know, some of the junior high sports are, because that might be a good indicator of how JV might be next year for some different sports.
What I will tell you is, my daughter who's in third grade for basketball has 45 kids at basketball. So those are the numbers that are coming up. So you're gonna have, you know, cutting kids at the JV or varsity level, you know, in the bubble that's coming up. So that's what's coming up, you know, in the horizon. Right now in fourth grade, the numbers are the same, you know. At soccer for third grade for my daughter, you know, there's 19, 20 kids, you know, playing on a team. That's
Do you
one
know
grade
about,
level, so.
like at the junior high level right now though?
Right, and again, if you look at our team, we have a strong junior high level team, but you also have rec basketball that contributes. That's what makes up your JV team, that's what makes up your varsity team. So some kids don't play on our middle school team, play rec basketball in the tryout, and you can't anticipate how many kids are gonna try out a year in advance.
Where's that?
So this page here, then basically the 1415 is basically to let us know what our sports are costing us in the high school.
That's
Basically.
that.
Okay,
whole
now,
page.
I don't see in here any overtime that you would incur, because I know when you have these games and such, you have to have your maintenance facility work overtime, and that's not included. You don't have that included in this line anywhere in here for the extra cost of the maintenance for the games.
Janitor.
We don't.
Janitors.
We
We
don't.
don't, because our janitors, they're staggered, their hours are staggered, we have
Okay,
different
so
shifts.
they're there anyway.
So they're
Okay.
there anyways,
Okay,
so
all right.
we don't have to.
Amy?
I would just like to clarify that the 21,000 up number that I mentioned is actually budget to budget. Before I get another, it comes right off of the summary on page 20, and it says right there, other instruction, difference of 21,000.
Where are you?
Before I get another.
Amy, you didn't get it.
I get it.
But is other instruction just athletics? I don't think
Oh,
so.
over here.
Because athletics, this page we're
I'm
looking
trying
at
to
is only.
relate back and forth to each page and where in the budget summary is, I suppose, because we don't have totals on here.
Right, but this 22, this page we've been looking at 24, is about $100,000. 103,000, so it's not other instruction.
So how do I relate that to the summary then?
Well, let's
I thought that they did the summary and then per line item, each budget details relates to a particular line item.
Well, I think other instruction might be more than just page 24.
It's not,
probably-
yeah, it's not just athletics.
It's any,
Um,
it's probably, I don't know, you'll tell us what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna guess.
I think my
Like, I
recollection
understand what
is,
you're asking, I just, that format's.
other instruction goes from vocational, which is 1,300. So it starts on page 23.
Well, vocational education is a separate line on that.
That's what I mean. So then right after 1,300, you hit 1,400 accounts,
So
Okay.
it's all 14 and
which is,
14.
has your remedial reading teacher and
Yeah, they
all
both
of
have.
those benefits. And then you get to the 1410, which is your co-curricular program, non-athletic, but your co-curricular program, we talked about that.
The clubs and stuff.
Right.
Okay.
And then the athletics, and then summer school, because the next thing on that chart you're looking at on page 20 is pupil services, and I believe that starts with guidance.
So, so the overall cost for the other instruction has gone up budget to budget.
21,000.
Right. But your comment I took as about athletics, which is not accurate. Because we've been talking about
Yeah, it's
only
not
athletics for the last 10
No,
minutes.
I didn't mean only athletics, I mean that 1,400 series.
That's so. Okay.
All right?
Are we good on? Is everybody clear about what
Good
we
on
just figured out?
athletics?
Yeah, so in an effort to help clarify for the future, when we have our, the budget summary, you know, where it says regular education, if we had 1,100 behind that, and then other instruction, you know, we just figured out other instruction is the 1,400s. If that were noted in this table,
Yeah, that'd be
the
helpful.
budget summary table,
Okay.
that would make it easier for everybody.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I know last year there was a.
Yeah, there
I
was.
can't find the little
There's a
cheat-
decoder ring?
Decoder sheet in there. Is there in here?
It's
Put it
in
in
the
the back.
back, it's in the back, it's in the
Oh, okay,
back.
put it in
I
the
thought I
glossary,
saw
I'm
it.
sorry.
It's on page 46.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where?
Page 46.
Appendix B. Yeah. So there's your decoder ring. Okay.
So yeah, as you look on there, you can see when you get to 2,100, see on that, 2,100? That's when it says pupil services. So anything with 2,100 are pupil services. Anything with 22 at the beginning of it is staff development.
Okay. All right, so I think we're ready to go to page 25,
Okay.
unless there's any more questions about the athletics. Page 24.
On 25, first, the 1430 function, that's our summer school. And although we're not experiencing a decline in our school population, We have seen over the years a decline in students who elect to go to summer school. It's not compulsory at all. And it's just an option for kids to, generally to make up failures and catch up on work. And our numbers have dwindled such that they're either not coming to us or they're going elsewhere to other summer schools. You don't have to go to ours, and so we've decided this year to stop running it as a summer school.
Man, you don't have that threat. There's a threat.
Oh, the threat's still there.
Oh, yeah.
They just have to go
What is it?
somewhere else.
Do we end up,
Go ahead,
do we
Roseanne.
end up paying for them to go somewhere else if they decide not to do
No.
our summer school
No, we
program? Okay.
$14.90, the homework club. That's something that is, really important component, not only of this school, but it was in the elementary as well. And it at one time was grant funded, but the grants have dwindled a bit and we can't get it out of the grant, so we need the money to pay. Now this is for, I think, is it 4 days a week, Chris?
3 days.
3 days a week. 3 days a week for teachers to serve as support for students after school in getting their homework done, and answering any questions that they have. Yes?
Go ahead.
Teachers don't just stay after school for an hour and deal with kids who need help or anything like that?
Yes, they do.
They
Yes,
do.
they do, but this is a separate, Chris, maybe you want to talk more about it, but this is a separate experience for kids.
This is for a paid position for kids that need extra organization. Teachers will stay with kids in their specific content area or grade level. This is for a large group because teachers can't stay every single day at that time. So this is to a dedicated person, 3 days a week. We usually typically run Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday when we have run in the past for an hour after school with a certain staff member to help with those organizational schools, homework completion, assignment completion. These are kids that you're at-risk kids, a lot of these children that need that support.
Okay. It just, it says homework. And,
Correct.
If we apply for grants, it's nice to be able to get them, but I don't know that the district should expect when a grant runs out that it should automatically be continued. And homework is homework. I think that the parents would do that at home. Okay?
For some kids, it's really a necessary structure in their lives because there isn't that structure here at home. Okay, then next, again, getting into 2100, 2120, we're talking about different student services. First, it's guidance. We have a director of guidance, plus who handles the high school portion, and then we have a middle school counselor. There's a guidance secretary who serves them, and that's pretty much it on that page. Unless you have any questions on anything, everything else is salary and benefits.
Is this one of those categories where there'd be the redistribution? Because it's missing, there's no money in printing,
Yes,
travel,
yes, there would,
supplies,
yeah.
books, software? Okay.
Well, take a look at 550 in the narrative down below, Brian, for example. Any place that is a...
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I put that comment there.
That's where that bright pink highlight.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dana. What we talked about.
Where some of these programs need to be cut and you're looking for funding from other areas, this is probably a weird question, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyways. Is there any one of our programs that are mandated through a special needs program, a special ed program, or anything like that? Can we get any funding, like Amy was talking, like, bake sales and things like that, but can we get funding from a source such as United Way for any of our programs? Do they go to schools? Has anybody looked into
I've
that?
had no experience with that, so I do not.
Not
I
in my
can't
years'
comment on that.
experience either.
Is there something a possibility to explore?
Sure. I'm always looking for money.
It's just a
I've never
thought.
seen,
As I sit here,
I
I'm
understand
thinking.
exactly what you're saying. I've never
Yeah.
seen it from that
Right, because
that
I'm thinking this
organization.
homework club, yes, great, it is the responsibility of the parent, but there is not always that structure. So the kids after school program, I'm assuming that this homework club thing's probably started by maybe a few students getting together and the whole program grew and got to the point where we are today that we're spending these dollars for someone to actually do it.
Well, I think it was more than just kids getting together. I think it was the felt need within the school.
Okay, it was at that
We've got
process.
these kids, when the day's done and they just leave, they're not coming in with their homework done well,
Yeah,
and
right.
and so we need to
I was a
provide a
product of that
structure.
generation, so I know, but I'm thinking possibly some funding of 10,000 from the United Way program, because it is not actually part of the curriculum. It's after the fact, and I think she might even answer it.
I just wanted to add a comment that we have students in the district who don't have access to computers at home, and they can't do their work at home, and this provides them an opportunity to do their work at school. We also have students who don't have anyone at home, who go home to empty houses, who don't have any structure, don't have a place to work, things like that. And some of our students really rely on this. We have regulars who come every single time. This is the first year we haven't had it. And it's been, we've had a lot of parents asking about it, and we've had a lot of students missing it. It's a way-
Well, I definitely see the need for the program. I'm thinking, how do we fund it outside of this budget? Is there a way of doing that? Has anybody tapped the sources for that type of program through the United Way or any other type of agency? United Way is a huge conglomerate,
Yeah,
large.
I don't think they fund this though.
Well, I mean, if we've never checked, we don't know. And that's what I'm hearing. We don't know.
Roseanne?
On line item 212112, it says one guidance director and one guidance counselor serves students' needs. What's the difference between the both?
One's an administrator. He supervises the counselor and does other administrative functions within the school and school district. He's
Such
really-
as, what does the guidance director do other than guide the guidance counselor? I mean, it's, thank you, Chris.
Right.
You guys are to do all your SAT testing, your PSAT testing, your ACT testing, all your high school transcripts that are going to every single college, your 9 months placement for career and technical education, coordination of any type of individual learning plan, coordination of other schools when kids are being brought to our school or going elsewhere. So there's a lot that falls on the guidance director, as well as supervision of that guidance counselor in the building.
And what does the guidance counselor do? Just talk to the individual student and guide them as to what they should do?
She's gonna work at the team level for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Specifically, she's dedicated there, but then she picks up a lot of our kids at the high school level with the guidance director doing all those other responsibilities. She serves on our crisis management team, our emergency planning team. She'll do a lot of after school with kids. She serves on our student assistance team, which looks at the individual needs of the kids. So there's a ton of.
So there's not a lot of duplicity in both their positions?
They do, in our building, there's a lot of duplicity in every job where we have to share and help out.
But not to the point that what one's doing, the other could possibly do. There's not, okay. Very good.
Any other questions on 25? All right, page 26. Again, you're into student services, but here 2130, that's the school nurse. The school obviously has one school nurse. And that's basically it in 2130. Again, zeros in areas of equipment and supplies, but that can be filled out later by the principal. Then 2152, another service, speech. Let's see. We have one full-time speech therapist. And then something else, but I must be thinking of elementary.
What do you want to talk about?
No, I was thinking of something else. so-
Is this where, didn't last year we make a change? You made a change where somebody's getting to some degree that
We-
eliminates something.
We moved
yeah.
some,
Right.
I think we had part-time, we moved somebody full-time to make
But then
it,
somebody
somebody
was
was
getting-
between the two schools.
That's psychology.
That's psychology.
That's
okay.
psychology.
Oh, yeah,
Here-
that's
Yeah,
psychology.
yeah,
Here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Here, I'll just point out that if you're looking at the 2152-3-112, which is speech salaries, I just want to point out the reason for the increase is just a reallocation of a 0.4. We had 0.6 at the junior senior high school for the speech therapist. I think they're therapists.
Right.
And then we had 0.4 that was shared at the elementary. We moved that 0.4 from the elementary to the high school, so now the FTE is 1. You will see the offset if you flip back to page 15. Thank you. If you look at the 51, 52,
2152.
yeah, 2152. Sorry, 2152, where's 112. You see the decrease in the salaries. There's your offset. It's just a reallocation of 0.4 FTE to the junior senior high school. Thank you. You're welcome.
Go ahead, Roseanne.
In that, I mean, we went from 25 for the actual from last year, almost 26,000. And we're going to almost 52 this year, which is a difference of almost $26,000. And then if you go back to page 15, you have a difference of 25,000 there. So there's really, why do I have 15,000 here? Oh, then you add the 15,000 additional on their insurance. Their insurance goes to 25,000 from almost 10,000. So now you have an additional almost 16,000 in health insurance. So by reallocating this 0.4 to 0.6,
It's a shuffling of the cards.
you have an additional cost of almost $42,000.
It's not new
Because
money.
we shift benefits as well.
And
The
then-
benefits were split between the schools, and now all the benefits
And plus
are
with
shown.
the increases in benefits as well. So you have the increases in benefits, and then you have the we'll call it the shuffle of the cards from the elementary to the junior, senior high school.
Is it correct that you're saying that the entire position is now in the high school, junior high school?
That's correct.
Yes.
And so that previously, it would have been...
It was split.
If it was still split, we would have a number that's relatively similar to this number, except for the increase in health insurance, or if they
And
change
some other
their,
benefits.
change their status.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it doesn't look like it's a status change.
Correct.
Is that clear?
Because last year's actuals were 151,000.
What are you looking at?
On page 15, if I'm following this right, if you look at the second line, professional salaries for speech was 151,000 last year. Now this year they're proposing 125, which is a savings of about 25,000.
Correct.
Okay. Now you go to page 26, and what was there? There were two speech there. Okay, so we have two full-time speech therapists at the other school.
And if you're looking at the last year,
So now if you go to page 26, you see the actual last year was almost 26,000.
right,
And now it's going to be almost 52,000.
so if you add the 25 from the other page to the 26, you get 52.
Exactly, but now add almost $16,000 extra in just health insurance benefits.
But you have to subtract it from the elementary health insurance.
Right.
So,
Everything is just a shuffling of the cards. We're just moving the money around to get the position.
Salary and benefits stays with the teacher, so when
Okay,
that part-time role moves up to the high school.
so we really haven't saved any money at all by doing this.
No, it's just a
No.
shuffling of the
Reallocation.
cards.
Just
Okay.
meeting student needs, and we needed full-time help at the junior, senior.
It really wasn't
But
about the
we really
money.
have saved
Right.
money. Historically, when I came here 3 years ago, we had 4 elementary speech pathologists, 4 full-time. And we had a full-time speech pathologist at the high school, plus 2 part-times that we contracted out. We have the one person went on a maternity leave at the elementary. I didn't replace her. I took the person that was in high school left. I had two contracted out speech people that were both more than half-time. And then what I did was I got rid of them because they were expensive. I took the elementary school, cut it down to 2, where it had been 4, and I moved one of them up to the junior high. So over the course of the last 3 years, we've gone down from the equivalent of almost 6 speech pathologists to 3. Just so you know that historically over the last 3 years, we have made a huge difference in that area. We really have.
is that helping?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, anybody's hand over there? Here.
Okay, page 27, top of the page, library media. As I explained at the elementary, we have a library media specialist who covers both libraries, the 2 schools. And we have split her salary and benefits at both cost centers. So you see half of a library media specialist shown here. Let's see. When you get, and all of that is pretty straightforward stuff in terms of other accounts and then what the principal may add later on. When you get to 2230, you're starting to get into technology. And the first line that's there is the one-to-one pilot coordinator stipend. When I showed you technology yesterday and I talked about iPads, that was all the equipment side of things. But I mentioned that we have 4 teachers that we're going to put in this pilot coordination role. And the expectation of them is not just use that in classrooms, but to work outside of their regular day and begin to take our, to define what the program can become and all of the policies and procedures that we need to develop, because when you get into one-to-one, working with students on a one-to-one basis, there's a lot of information that has to be developed. And so we're looking at these teachers to do that over and above their teaching role. So we decided to pay them a stipend of $2,000 apiece.
Ellen?
So if we look on page 41, the second grouping of equipment, operating budget, it does show training, 4,500, a total of 9,000.
Yes.
Is that different than this?
That's training provided by Apple personnel.
Okay.
They're terrific at it, and it's training our teachers and taking them to a certain level. What I'm looking for them is, when you go and look at schools that are operating in a one-to-one environment, there are lots of policies and procedures that we don't have in place. And so I'm expecting them to help shape what the program will become. And so they're, in effect, as administrators, one of the things that you don't see in here, we had a director of instructional technology, and we really don't have that in this budget. So I look at these 4 as being the forefront of developing instructional technology for us.
Roseanne? And Judy?
So the library media person it's split between both schools. So what we see here, the 30,000 and change, is half of her salary.
That's right.
And then when you go down to health insurance, is this health insurance listed half again?
Everything's prorated.
Prorated, and that's only for one person. That's for the person that's getting the 30,000 up top.
That's correct.
That's her insurance.
That's correct.
So she's making $61,000 a year, and we're paying $33,000 in health benefits?
Well, that also can cover the paraprofessional library media as well. That's not just
It's
her
not just
benefits.
her. It's health insurance for the personnel in the library.
Is the paraprofessional full-time? I mean, 50?
It's
Full-time.
split again.
She's
So
full-time again?
So again, you've got a library media specialist that is responsible for both libraries. But the operation, the day-to-day operation is also handled by library media
So that's not
assistants.
just for that one person?
No,
Okay,
no, it's for 2, yeah. Yeah, that would be
I
pretty
need some
expensive.
a lot more strong.
Let's be
water
clear on
out
that,
there.
that's for 2 people.
Okay.
Brian?
Any other-
Oh, sorry, yes, Judy.
Okay. So this 2230 account,
Yes.
which is technology, right?
Correct.
That's
Which
correct.
particular
That's right.
one?
2230
What
account.
page?
2230, on page 27,
All 20.
2230, 120.
All, 3/4 of the way down, the rest of it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's about $27,000, right? Approximately. Is that number included in your overall report on
On
page
tech.
4 for technology?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes. Yes, it is. The other thing that I would point out to you there, right underneath that one-to-one pilot, the next line down, 2230, 126 says webmaster stipend. One of the cuts we made in moving from a 5% increase to just under a 3% increase was to cut the computer instructor position that we have at the elementary, because we felt we could transfer a computer teacher from the high school to the elementary. So I guess I should say what we've done is we've taken a teacher from the high school, transferred her to the elementary school, and she then bumps out an instructor. So there's a reduction in salary there. If you look at page, let's see, on page 8 again, about a third of the way down, you'll see that at the elementary school, a technology tutor was cut in the amount of $28,658. And then there are benefits that go with that position leaving. The teacher from the high school gets assigned to elementary, so it's just a shift of money, so there's no savings there. But that then says for the high school that we need to have an extra stipend amount in the amount of $3,000, or $33.22, pay somebody to do the webmaster responsibility as an extra responsibility. When we had 2 computer teachers at the high school, one of them did the website as part of their teaching role. But now that we only have 1 computer teacher, we can't afford to have web management as part of a teaching role. It has to be something extra. So that's what that stipend is for.
So anyway, one question, why are some of the columns, in the green column, there's some white ones? Does that mean anything that we're supposed to understand, or?
No,
It
it was for us.
We
It was an exercise that
we
we
tried
as
something
administrative.
that it really didn't work, but so no.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I
We
wasn't
were
missing something.
experimenting and it was just,
I
That's a-
looked at it and I wonder what it was.
No.
I didn't say
Yeah.
anything.
our coffee are just
I
going a
just thought
little
somebody forgot
crazy
the
the
color
other day.
again.
No, we were trying some scheme and then
That's okay.
never changed it back, so. But again, the accounts that you see there that are on there under equipment and equipment repair and technical contracted support, I did talk about that Monday at our meeting. Any other questions on page 27?
Well, I guess, this is, just because it's on here again about the stipends for the teachers to do the pilot program for the iPads, I guess I'm a little concerned that there is this almost creeping approach towards a transfer to Apple. And I think you guys really need to think that through before you decide to do a pilot. Because transferring, we're already spending a ton of money to upgrade the laptops, and now we're thinking, it sounds like you were implying earlier that this is a pilot, and if it works, then the high school will transition to Apples. And then you're like, geez, Apples are way more expensive than a regular PC because they're Apple. And guess what? There's PCs that will do what 95% of the students and teachers leave them to do for less. So I'm a little concerned that this is the beginning of significant expenditures to have Apple products when I'm not sure that's really what's absolutely versus
Where we are heading, and where high schools certainly are heading, and some places even the lower grades are heading, is a one-to-one learning environment where not just teachers have technology, but every student has technology.
I'm okay with that. I'm just not sure we can afford it to be Apple. Because an Apple laptop is more money than, you could buy 2 PC laptops and pretty much not notice the difference.
Right, I understand.
Unless you're doing high-end graphic design work.
Right.
I don't know, I just,
Let's ask the question of why.
we've had some major problems with technology implementation. I'm not gonna get into, but we all know there's been major problems, and I'm not sure this has been totally thought through about what it really means. If the pilot's successful, I don't want you coming back in 4 years saying, we decided that now we're gonna migrate from PC to Apple on everything in the high school, and then we're not gonna have a 5-year window for the lifespan of a PC, but it's, you know, I'm not saying we should be doing 7 to 10 years.
But we
I
just
understand
bought
your
the new
concern.
staff computers and Windows. I think that goes to the point
Well,
that I
that's
brought
the-
up the other day. Is like,
Well, that's the elementary school, and I
Right,
was
but
hearing
which
just,
way are we?
Great.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Ferrari for driver ed.
Why don't we ask the
Think about
question
this.
of why did you decide to do that, to go with Apple? I understand and I agree with you only because I worked for Apple at one time, is the education software is better, but is that the only reason? Because they're absolutely right. I mean, for Apple product, you can buy 2 of the window environments.
And outfit more kids.
Well, I think you explained why, and I mean, before we heard it was because the software opportunities are much better in the Apple products. But, and I mean, if, maybe the answer is, well, the interface for those will continue to be that, but the administrative interface is gonna continue to be PCs. that would make some sense to me, that's okay. Like the teachers use a laptop that's a PC product, whatever company, doesn't really matter to me, to access all the different programs that you mentioned before. And that the students and the teacher might have an Apple product too, but at least, I don't know. If that's where the way you're going, that's a little different, but the suggestion that it might transfer everything to that,
Cost prohibitive.
I don't think we can afford to do all Apple. I personally bought an Apple iPad 2 and then returned it the next day and got an Asus. It's not as good, but it's does what it needs to do, which is, I read the internet every morning.
For you, it does.
Yeah, right. That's
Right,
what I
but
would say. That's a good point.
For a 9th grader,
We can't afford it, so.
Well,
I don't know.
I can tell you that the great majority of schools out there are going this way and have gone this way already. We're behind other schools. The market is dominated by them. When you get other products, I mean, Apple, take the MacBook. That's an all-in-one package. All your software is loaded onto there. You don't have to go out and license Microsoft Office or whatever. Everything is loaded on there. You don't have to deal with antivirus. There's a whole host of things that when you go out and buy a PC, you just get a blank slate PC. And now you have to go and attach other expenses to that PC in order to bring it to the point of where the MacBook would be. And before you're done, you're almost going to spend as much money. And what you're going to have are probably more problems because the reliability of Apple products versus these others is clear. It is truly clear. And what happens when you go in a PC environment, and we experience that, we try to do it to lower costs and whatnot, but you get problems where things don't work properly together. In an Apple environment, especially if you're heading to an all-in-one, it's a better choice, and that's what's being found out there. And I would say that in terms of cost, I think there are ways to reduce those costs if you're buying on high volume, and also if you come up with some creative financing arrangements.
I see Dana, Alan, Judy.
You all set? You're absolutely right, because in the K through 12, and we've seen it in the higher education area, an example of what I'll give the community and the public is I had taken a map of the university, all these buildings, all this properties that it owns, and it was like 5 to 1. It used to be a PC campus. IBM was strictly what everybody used. Apple comes in, Apple does its thing through the education, and I would say 5 to 1 was Apple product, because they have the foothold in the education market. IBM, Acer, all these other ones, they're great products, absolutely wonderful product, but they were always developed for the economy, business world, not so much for the educational world. So Apple got its niche early to do that. So this is a point where we're looking at cost. Yes, we have to look at cost. They're looking at cost, but integration to a technology that's far easier to teach and work with than the PC world. And they both can do it now, I believe. The Apple product can read DOS and DOS files, programs. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. This is where I say to myself, I've got to rely on the educational aspect of what these people do professionally on a day-to-day basis when I make my decision to go with the Apple product, because I can see that. And I can also see where the board is looking at the financial aspect of it too. Absolutely, and it's a tough decision. But having been in that market, I know what they're talking about, and it's, it's hard to if you're not ever been in that market. So,
So
Judy, right?
this might be a good case where you need some more information in the document to explain what what the strategies are, what you just said tonight and what you said the other night, and then maybe even a cost comparison to say this is what we're getting by doing the Apple products. This is what we get if we do the PC, and your rationale why you've chosen the Apple over the PC approach, because it sounds like there's some a lot of background to why you've gone this approach, but you know, there's obviously people here that aren't supporting that, or, you know, need some more information, so it seems like you need to provide that. If it's strategically a really good idea, I think you need to
Okay.
really spell that out,
Okay.
because you probably won't, sounds like you might not get the support if you don't, so.
No, I think it's a good point.
I have to voice my opinion on this. In last year, and I don't have the figures for 2010-11, but 2011-12 and what's approved for 12-13 is over $900,000 in technology. If we move forward, and I assume we will move, and I do totally support the technology within the school, but I don't think we're the Taj Mahal. If we add the 460, which is being requested, within a 2-year period, basically, we will be spending $1.3 million on technology. And it seems to me that we have to look at those numbers very carefully, considering that the previous 2 years, we've invested in PCs. We have not looked at apples. And apples have bells and whistles, and I think it's wonderful. But just because every other school has done it and that's the way they're going, doesn't mean that we have to go that way when we can figure out something that would be equally as good. Maybe not, you know, sparkling and wonderful, but as Brian said, we're talking about 9, 10, and 12th graders who probably, many of them, or a good portion of them, have those kinds of technologies at home.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take us off on that segue. But it's something that between the meetings came up.
I'm not sure where I land on this at this point. I will say, I know for myself personally, if I were to project what do I see 10 years out, most people today have a cell phone. The vast majority of cell phones that are being purchased are smartphones, which means we're all carrying around a little computer device anyway, or many people are carrying around such a device. I know that some school systems discourage students from having and using their smartphones in schools. Others encourage it because it's a computer in your hand. And I'll be curious to see where we as a society, and we as a community, go related to that. I mean, if you look in the high school, there are many, many students who have smartphones. I'm not entirely convinced that we would be expected or it would be reasonable to buy a similar device for them to use for school, because in truth they'd rather use what they have because they already have it. And so the level of concern that I've heard some people express of, you know, oh my goodness, I don't want to buy an iPad for everyone, I wholeheartedly agree with. I don't either. But I'm not sure that having a pilot program necessarily leads us to that either.
Roseanne?
Dr. Hayes kind of alluded to the fact that that's where he plans on going to. I don't know the
A
exact state.
one-to-one environment, but I mean, what he's talking about is it's even got an acronym now, BYOD, bring your own device. And that's what's happening in other schools, and I certainly do, I agree with you, I see that coming for us. The future is handheld and wireless. And that's not how we operate in our school. We're not trying to get to Taj Mahal. We're trying to get to where others are already. And this is a first venture in doing that. But really, the reality is that teachers need to learn how to take advantage of everybody having a device that connects to the internet, and that they can open up a world of resources to them as they're teaching
So
students.
now, I've heard of the school district that I grew up in Pennsylvania they bought a laptop for every high school student, and it was the students. They got to take it home.
Yep.
It became a problem because apparently there was software on it. that allowed them to see what the student was doing,
Right.
and like the video camera get turned on. But anyway, that's the only reason I know about it. But the point being is that why not do something like that, where if you want that computer, you're paying half of it, and you get it for 3 years, and then it's yours, and then the next student has to buy in, and they pay for half, the district pays for half, and then you don't have the kid at home with their iPad, then the iPad at work, at school, left there, you know, and then they have to take responsibility for it. I know it's going to be an administrative pain, but if you want to get there quickly, then let's get some buy-in from everybody that's going to benefit.
Let me take a couple minutes and give you my experience in Beverly. In 2006, I believe it was, when we decided we needed to build a new high school. And as we envisioned this new school, even back then, it was handheld and wireless. We weren't sure what. But we were aiming towards one-to-one laptops. And we had a vision early on that it was even more than what you just said. We were going to do like what they do at college, have an expectation that parents would buy the laptops. Now, it was a 1,200 student school, and to get to the end of the story, it opened up first year at 1,260 students, and out of the 1,260 students, 1,200 of those kids, through their families, were purchasing 3-year lease purchase of a MacBook. And so what was really, take 1,200 and multiply it by 1,000 plus, that's how much money was not in our budget, because we were able to put together a package with Apple that would allow a 3-year lease purchase. And there's my smartphone. Excuse me.
That's okay, it happens.
And so we were able to put that package together that saved well over $1 million. And it would have come, just like we're shaping now, we're shaping a budget for building a new school. Part of that is furniture, and it has technology money built into that number. But we saved well over $1 million because we convinced parents, and we made an affordable package. I think it was only like $24 a month for 3 years. And parents stepped up
through to bring the computers
and
home.
then they own it. And they take it home.
So I think if
and
you're
they
going
take care of it.
if you're going in that direction, that's
Yeah.
different than what we're hearing. I think
Well,
that makes sense.
I'm sorry I didn't say that, but back
Huge difference. Because there's a benefit
at least
for both parties.
about a year and a half ago.
And there's not like somebody home with their own computer and
About a year and a half ago, I asked my technology director from Beverly to come up, and because she was still managing it. Obviously, I left before the school opened, and she was still managing that and had a great hand in doing it. And I asked her to come up and meet with the facilities committee and meet with the school board, describe the program. The response from people that listen, board members as well as facility committees, this sounds wonderful. There was really a great deal of support for that concept. So, you know, as we get towards that, if this has legs, let's say, that this concept does, then I don't see any reason not to do it, because it is a cost-effective way to do it.
Should have told us that earlier.
And was there
I'm sorry.
some threshold for the district providing financial support for families that were unable
We
to afford
did.
it?
We called them scholarship, and so what we, depending upon the level of need, maybe you weren't paying $24 a month, but we, like you just said, we wanted them to pay something, so it might have been only $5 or $10 a month. So we did that. And so all that we had to do was buy enough laptops to cover those 60 other students in this instance. So, but those kids couldn't take it home. For those kids, it wasn't their personal laptop. It was, Brian comes in the morning, you go down to the tech center, you get a computer, and it's with you for the day, and you've got to turn it at the end of the day. And it's a very inconvenient way of learning for them, but at least they had it during the school day. But it's in place, and the response was overwhelming. When we were building the budget, we were constantly wondering how many parents are really going to go forward for this, and the response was overwhelming. So it can be done.
Roseanne?
What's the median yearly income in Beverly? We're not Beverly, this is Newmarket, and I don't know if parents in our town would be able to afford that.
Beverly, Well, Beverly socioeconomically runs the same gamut as you do here. We had about the same free and reduced lunch population as we have here. And so we have low-income people going all the way out to the people who lived in Beverly Farms. It's no different than the people that live out towards Bay Road. There are people that make a lot of money. And so socioeconomically, I don't see us, of course it's smaller. Beverly was a city of 40,000 people. But it's not all wealth. It's not all wealth.
What district was the school in that you built up? Was it in a
It
certain
was Beverly.
district?
No, it was Beverly. I know what you mean. It was the high school.
Was it one high school for
It was
the
one high
entire
school
town?
for the whole town.
For the whole
Yes,
town?
it was, right.
I think, Roseanne, I kind of hear you a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also see the money that people spend on things that I think are
absolutely.
absolutely
Here's what you
stupid.
really
And
run
they
up
don't have the
against.
money to fix their car, but then there's an ATV and a snowmobile.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what you run up against.
Yeah.
And none of
But,
them
you
have.
know, but that's
is that
everybody
probate.
gets to decide what they want to spend their money on. And
They
what
do.
makes sense to me doesn't make sense to them. So-
And families, as kids get older, there's competition for the few one computer or the few computers in the house. So families, when kids got to be in 8th grade, they were saying, just tell us what it is and we want to buy it for Christmas gift because I know I want my kid to have their own computer as they go through. Now that was a
They'll have to figure out
laptop
whether it's reasonable.
and that's
Yeah.
expensive. What we're exploring are iPads, which is less expensive. So a lease purchase for a parent would be
Pretty cheap.
small. Yeah.
Maybe,
So, and this may have been asked, so that was, when you were talking about Beverly and the parents.
You gotta speak
Yeah,
up.
just
hear
speak up.
you.
Can't
Sorry,
hear you.
when you were talking about Beverly and the parents picking up picking up the cost or taking them home, can that principle be applied to this pilot program in that you select students to receive these iPads? You know, does anybody
I
want
don't
to?
want to because it's not like individual students can carry them throughout the day. It's a teacher who's teaching her math classes and one who's doing social studies, and so it may be different grades and different kids. And we're only buying a laptop cart to bring it into the classrooms when appropriate for the teachers so they learn how to take advantage of the tool. So no, I don't see that being workable. We're not buying it for like all freshman class, for example. We're not doing that.
Right, but to try to, what you're saying is you're not trying it per student per day, you're trying it in a math class.
Individual
But it's not
classes.
even something where you could take a math class of 20 people and say, hey, do you guys want to try this and see how that goes for a period of time?
Yeah.
Make that.
Well, again, it's hard. It would only be for that class, and yet what we really want to explore is English, math, social studies, and science.
And
Trying to get
and
a
that
broadcast.
teacher teaching, the 3 different classes, so it wouldn't just be those 20 kids, it would be 60 kids, or,
Right.
you know.
So, but we're working on a small scale. I mean, I think a year ago we talked about the concept that you had, and I was kind of trying to encourage that to get, one teacher with just one science class, but we never really went there. We couldn't find the money to make it happen. But this seems a good way to at least explore what does this mean for us, and then go from there. But again, there are ways, like I said, creative ways to get this funded. So.
Judy, you have another question?
Yeah. Jim, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the, roughly 1.3 million that Judy's talking about in the technology budget over the past couple of years. It includes things like salaries and
We have
internet access, et cetera.
salaries and
correct?
benefits. We had 3 positions. We had conversions that we had to do. We had crashes. We had to tap into, I think, some of the technology trust fund in order to do that. So that's where some of the money came from. So we had our share of problems. We had to really lean on outside contracted services. We're still not out of the woods. That's the honest truth. We're still not out of the woods yet, but we're getting there. Enough that it warrants doing this kind of a pilot program instructionally. But we've had outdated equipment and an outdated infrastructure that wasn't built properly, and so we had to rebuild it all. So it is expensive. There's no question. I get it, Judy. It is expensive.
But you did reconstruct it, and you did do things with the dollars that were expended and are proposed to be expended. So I'm just saying that $1.3 million within this time frame is something that we need to think about very carefully. And just as an add-on, you know, the purchase by students, families for computers applies not only to the Macs, it does apply to the PCs. Having just bought one for my grandson in his high school. So it is not just segregated to one vendor.
No, it's not. I understand that.
I don't think anybody said that.
Yep.
I didn't say that.
No, I was wondering if I had said that earlier, that's why. I'm thinking, did I say that?
Well, but again, with the research that we did when we were in Beverly,
No, I respect
we
that.
went out and Dell and all these others, and we said, okay, here's what we want delivered. And only Apple can deliver the all-in-one. And when you go to Dell or Lenovo, you won't get an all-in-one. And you have to reach out to so many other vendors to make it work. By the time you're done, your price point just disappears.
I respect the research on it, but
It does, yeah.
So to go back and add on to my suggestion about how you described this, I think I read the technology plan, it was sort of long, and it didn't sound like it said what you said tonight, so.
It does briefly.
Yeah, but
yes.
it's not as clear as what you're trying to describe in terms of this vision. So I think you need to incorporate what Judy said in terms of what's been spent. What has the community gotten for that money? Where are we at now in terms of the infrastructure? And why this then fits in with that vision, so that these are the computers we want to buy, and this is why, and we wouldn't get to this other place, and also do that comparison of why Apple versus PC. I think you're going to have to really explain that, but not in pages and pages and pages, but as clear and concise as you can be, because it's clearly going to be a difficult funding issue given the cost. But you've explained things, I think, pretty well why you want to do it, and the reason I just think you have to
Just put it
explain
words.
that to the public
Right.
too.
Yes.
It's going to be hard.
Okay.
Dana, did you have anything else?
No, unless I'm thinking.
Jim,
Yes.
do you know how to turn the heat up?
Turn the heat up by putting your jacket on.
I don't know.
It's not
Here's why we need a new furnace. And new windows.
I don't know. It's a little chilly.
No.
She was asking to check the temperature.
Just sit on the hand, that's what I'm doing.
Girls are always cold.
That's because you don't have it, right?
Well, my feet are cold.
Yeah, my feet are freezing.
My feet are cold.
Different unit.
Okay.
It's locked up.
Okay, so I think we're going to page 28 now.
I just take a break, jump up.
Aesthetics.
Well, he designate someone to bring the hot
All
chocolate.
right, so page 28.
28 at the top just continues on with technology accounts, but those were all explained the other evening, pretty much. You see the first line, for example, the information service subscription fee is zeroed out, and I told you that all went to SAU and so forth. So then you hit 2410, which is your administrative function. 2410 means you, there for salaries, you have the principal salary, assistant principal. There are 3 secretaries who work in the junior senior high office. Let's see, one's a full-time bookkeeper, the other is a 231-day secretary receptionist, and the other is 218 days. We did reduce the hours on one of them. I believe it was the 218 day. But anyway, we reduced the hours because one of them had the responsibility of being the secretary to the summer school. And since we cut summer school, we dropped that back.
Just one quick thing,
Yes.
again, so people understand. You might want to change it to secretary salaries, 115 up there, so that people know it's
Yes.
multiple.
Yes.
Just a,
Hmm.
people quickly look at that line like, wow, one salary.
I want
I'll
to
be
be
the
secretary.
secretary.
How do you get that job?
Sign me up.
Roseanne?
And what is you have principal and assistant, so that's the principal and the assistant principal.
That's correct.
Okay, what's the difference in their salaries? What does the principal make?
Yeah, you must-
He's right here. We just skip.
No.
Oh, mine's broken up into two. Give me a second, I have to combine the two because it's,
Oh, you have.
yeah, but
Right.
it's,
So let's go on to the next question while she's, is there any other questions?
I
You
believe
were
it's
still
around, I believe it's
talking.
around 94.
95.
Yeah, I wanna say that's
Somewhere, I think
true.
it's about 94.
And that's without the
Hold
benefits?
on a second.
That's the salary.
That's salary.
And so then the,
93,774
Yeah.
is the principal. And then just subtract that out, so.
And do principals and assistant principals work a whole year, or just the regular school year of, what is it, 1,440 hours?
the assistant principal, I believe, is 215 days. Do you remember?
215 days?
I think it's, am I right? I think it's a 250, it's not a full, not a year-round position, not for assistant
And
principal.
what about the principal?
That's year-round.
Year-round?
Which is the 231?
No, she's asking administrators, you're
Yeah.
referring to secretaries.
No. Yeah, I'm asking,
so
yeah.
he's-
Full-time,
Yes.
that's 260 days a year, minus holidays.
Thank you, I just couldn't.
So
And the other
260
2 weeks
days,
times 5?
that's
And
considered
But
full-time.
260 is full-time.
Minus
For a
the
teacher.
holidays.
Thank you, that's it.
Okay, let's see. 2410 runs to the bottom of the page, and those are pretty self-explanatory, I think. I don't see anything unusual in there, except the telephone, and I think we talked about telephone the other night.
Is the replacement furniture just down for budgetary reasons, or would it possibly go up with a reallocation?
Replacement?
Oh, that's underneath technology, I guess, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a technology one, right. So that's all I have to say on 28. I don't know if you have any questions.
Anything else?
Page 29 continues on with administrative accounts at the top of the page. And then we get to 2490. This is where I meant, when Christine was reading club advisors earlier, she talked about departments, and no, they're an administrative account, 2490. And if you read the description down below, there are 6 department chairs. It varies how much each one earns. They get a base amount of $900, and then for each person they supervise, they get $150. Because some supervise more than others, their stipended amounts are different. Then you get to 2,600 accounts. That's all the maintenance, custodial and maintenance. We have 3 full-time custodians and 1 part-time at the high school. And then there's a head custodian, so you have funds in there for those 5 people. We also have some money in there for additional help in the summertime.
So why is the, for the custodial salaries, it looks like the budget versus actuals never really been on target. It's 134 budgeted, 149, 138 budget approved, now it revised to 148, now it's $7,000 higher. So why is it $7,000 higher?
Overtime.
Well, you're
There's some just that
expecting $7,000 more this year? Because there's $7,000 more this year over last year's approved, revised.
That was for a salary adjustment, I believe. Isn't that correct, Jen?
Did you guys,
Because that was
I know the
for,
custodial salaries are one of the ones that got adjusted in that chart, the classification.
They did,
used.
right.
So that's part of the
Right.
adjustments to the.
Yeah, their salaries.
And the head custodian as well, this past year was adjusted, and then that would also factor, the reason for the increase in the last year's actual and the year before would be, some of that would be for overtime.
What? I thought you just said there wasn't.
There wasn't overtime.
What,
That they're
last year?
staggering shifts.
Yeah.
No, there's
But-
overtime, like, for example, we have some fire and life safety issues when the fire marshal comes in that we have to do. So, like, example, Mr. French works some weekends to get that, met immediately.
So it's not during academic time.
Yeah.
Correct. When I say stagger, I mean, they work, and Christy might be able to help me out, I think they are done at 10. And then if there's a project that has to get done, for fire and life safety, if they have to come in, because we open the school for rec department or for any functions that we hold in the building, we pay them overtime.
You know, but they're salaried, right, not hourly?
No, they are hourly.
They're
Oh.
hourly,
Okay.
so we pay them.
The functions start early in the morning. Are they part of the day curriculum for the school, or is it some outside entity like might have the babysitting thing inside?
I don't know either.
Election day.
'Cause if,
I don't know. why would you-
Election day would be another one. We
Okay.
they do dances. We have a facilities use request form now, so I'm really starting to monitor what the facility is being used for.
Okay.
But those type of events do require building maintenance.
Right.
And when they're not functions of the community, we are starting to charge to offset some of those expenses.
that's my point.
We have implemented that last year. My predecessor started that, and we're definitely carrying that out to meet the heating expenses and
Okay. energy
energy expenses plus our custodial expenses, because we have a lot of people that want to utilize the building. So,
Someone have a follow-up on this over here? Any other questions about that section? I thought there was a hand.
2600 carries over to the next page. Biggest jump there, we talked about it at elementary the other night, is fuel oil. You see that line is, certainly needs to be highlighted.
it's about a $40,000 increase from last year.
Right.
And that's for all buildings?
No,
This is just high school.
It's still under action,
Just high
so.
school. It is not a tight building.
Yeah, I know that. Wow.
Yes.
You can
Yes,
see what we
indeed.
actual versus approved for.
Might be cheaper to build our own oil.
Is there, and for the new school that's being considered, have they done the analysis of what it's gonna cost to run as part of that?
Not yet. I guess
Let's just
they're
make sure
not-
they do a
we're
good
not
job,
going to
so
do
I
that.
see less
Yes.
numbers than this next time.
Are you looking at other alternative energy sources? Like pellet stoves or something? I know that's a
We've
big
just
switch.
we just started having
Just the
conversations
maintenance.
around
You think it's the
alternative
bigger
sources,
buildings?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting, we had one meeting on it already, and I'm waiting for materials to be sent to me.
Get better
Yeah, There's
efficiency.
just been some recent stuff about commercial-sized pellet stoves,
Yeah.
and the sources are local, they're in New Hampshire.
One of the concepts that was interesting to me that is new is trucking in natural gas, not propane, but natural gas, and that it would be less than propane. And that was a very interesting concept. We've talked about putting solar on the roof of the new
Mhm.
school.
Yeah, pellet and solar would be renewable, whereas the gas, of course, is
Right.
not.
Right, but it's a much lower cost.
The
Yeah.
natural gas, there's no pipeline that you could get.
No,
No,
but
it's
don't you
running.
put
You
tanks?
truck them in.
You put tanks on site and truck it in. It's a new, it's happening, right? It is happening out there.
Pellets.
More so in Maine maybe,
Yeah.
but anyway,
$50,000
we're exploring
a
anything
pellet
that's
stove.
gonna reduce costs on
Yeah,
this,
grants.
and
Biomass.
we just started doing that.
Uh,
2,700 gets into various transportation expenses. Nothing outlandish here. The big chunks of transportation are in the SAU budget. We'll get to that soon. Any questions on 30?
The real what?
The real big expenses on transportation, special ed transportation, district-wide transportation, SST.
So the regular bus routes are in the district.
They're in the district budget, yeah. These are for other things like field trips and athletic teams. This is purely for the high school.
Yep, go ahead.
Just a clarifying point, there's been no budget, no spent, whatever, and then fiscal year, under homeless transportation, sorry. And then there was money in the current year's budget that we're in, and now we're going to 5,000. Is that an allowance just in case?
It is. We federally have to provide transportation for homeless students, and typically we try to share that with other districts that the child would either reside in or come to. So in years previous, we paid roughly about $10,000. 2 years ago, we paid that. Last year, we paid that. It's not represented in this line because it was charged to the special ed out of district placement instead of here, which I think, Jean, $7,400? Yeah. About $7,400. So we were anticipating a short-term homeless this year, but other than that, we think that we can suffice on the 5,000, so.
Thank you, I just wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly.
Yep.
And on the homeless thing, didn't we learn last year, like if my house burned down and my kid was in school, but then we moved to Exeter because we got an apartment or just lived at a friend's, you'd have to bus my kid back to school
That's correct.
at your house.
We would share it. We try.
You try to share
The
it, but-
districts try to share, and it's usually, there's an understanding, there's a shared.
Yeah, that would be efficient. Okay, go ahead, Roseanne.
How long are you mandated by the state to provide that homeless transportation once they move out of district?
Jean, can you answer that?
Yes.
Is it, I think it's as long as they're under the,
Would you ask the question
How
again? I just
long,
looked
does
for a
the
second.
state mandate how long you have to provide the homeless transportation once they move out of district? Does it depend on circumstances or?
Usually it's to let them finish out the school year, and once they
Mhm.
finished out the school year, if it looks like they're going to be getting back into your community,
Mhm.
then you might start out the next year and continue, but if it looks like they're not gonna get back into your community, that they're going to, maybe they're on a list to go into a different community, then they might not come back to your school and they will stay in the school they're in. They will stay, go in the town they're in at that point,
And-
usually the end of the year.
And the school adheres to that, because I know a couple of years ago, we had a student, I think, in Rochester, and we went back and forth for a couple of years.
The state director of homeless addressed that issue. We tried to not have that happen because we agreed that, we felt that that was not the right way to do it. But the state director of homeless really forced our hands.
But
It's
if
not
there's no
something that I'm
state mandate,
particularly
how
happy
There
can
is,
about.
well, it's a federal law.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
and my understanding of it is that they have to make, let's say they're displaced to Rochester, as you said. They have to be making efforts to get back into a Newmarket housing situation. So if they've made those efforts but haven't been able to, and if they still desire to go to Newmarket, there's nothing that limits it to 1 year.
Okay.
It does continue on as long as they have that desire. What we try and do is convince them that they're usually better off going in the district where they reside, and sometimes we're successful.
But I just want to talk about your scenario, Brian. You would actually not get transportation unless the apartment you moved into as a result of your house burning down was a double-up situation where you were bunking with someone else. If you got your own apartment in the meantime with your insurance money, you would not be homeless, even though your house burned down.
Sorry, Brian.
Right.
So I'm sorry about
I didn't use a very good
I assume
scenario.
you bumped up.
There goes that up.
Striking
No
a
fire
match,
at
I
our
just want to slow you down.
Yeah. Brian.
I was just trying to give representatives. I failed.
You just
Okay,
bumped up,
then.
no big deal. You bumped up.
Page 30.
Page 32, actually. There's nothing
Well, I'm just
really-
making sure. There's anything else on page 30? No.
Okay.
32.
There's nothing really on 31 for me to highlight there. You can look at it if you like. This is the essay.
31's the summary of what
This
we're
is a
about to
summary
get
of
all
what
the
we're looking
details
at,
on.
right.
It's
And
the
so-
same issue though about
Yeah, I
explaining
thought
the higher actuals versus the,
Yeah.
you've got it here too, so you might, remember you were gonna add a sentence about
Yes,
CIPs?
we would do it for
Do it for the whole thing.
the whole thing, be consistent and throughout the process.
Okay, so on page 32, the first set of accounts deal with special education, and it starts off with tutors. These are tutors that provide education to students who are hospitalized or otherwise at home under doctor's orders. So that's something that we're obligated to do through special education. Then following that, it says extended year salaries. We have a summer school program for our in-district special needs students. Let's see.
So there is still a summer program, but only in special needs.
For special education, we have summer
Children's
programs,
special
yes,
needs.
right. The contracted services line is always a big item. You see account 323. And obviously, at one time it was higher, and then it dropped down, but now it's going up, and this is just what we project based on who we know and where they're going and what we expect costs to be.
That's a sabbatical leave.
What's that?
Remember the sabbatical leave?
Oh, that's right.
That's
That's right.
right.
That's where
I
it
just
is.
wanna
That's
make
right.
sure- I just wanna make sure
That's
that
the
that's
sabbatical leave.
Yep.
Right. I'll let you explain that because that's got contracted services there. So go ahead.
Okay, so, and Jean, you might have to help me out on this. So, in the contracted services line, the increase there is to provide for assistance for sabbatical leave. Jean,
We have a psychologist.
why don't you explain the program she's in, because I don't know the program.
Oh,
So I can justify.
we're talking about the,
BCBA.
the BCBA.
Yes,
Right.
so I
We
can
had,
justify.
we had set this up to do this last year. We have a board certified behavior analyst that we have to provide for our students with behavior problems, whether they, and I'm not talking about discipline problems so much as I am kids that have behavior problems that are associated with disabilities. And we need to have a behavior consultant to help us to figure out how to write a behavior plan that will work with the child, how to work with the family to help them to be able to work with the child and all of that. And it's quite expensive. We pay about $125 an hour for someone to provide those services to us. We contract for an out-of-district person. We're having, one of our school psychologists is going to be taking this is what you want me to explain, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
She's
fine.
going to be taking a
Sabbatical
sabbatical. She's already started to take courses toward becoming a BCBA. And she is going to take a sabbatical to finish that program so that we can get rid of the contract and that she can, we're thinking it's going to save us roughly $30,000 a year for her to take on those responsibilities in the district. It makes more sense because she's here as a full-time psychologist anyway. And with that, we would be able to have her, it's very natural for school psychologists as they're working with a student to try to help the team with how to interact with the student, what to do, give a consultation. She would just then have that additional credential, that additional information, and we wouldn't have to have someone with that credential from out of our employment. It would save us a chunk of change every year.
So, while she's on sabbatical, we pay her salary.
Is she going for a full
She's
year?
half. We're
She's
paying
going for a full year, so she gets half her salary.
Which is how much? Plus her full year insurance, I'm sure. Her health insurance?
Plus benefits.
Okay.
That's correct. Let me just get you what your first question is.
Okay.
Where's my SEU? Okay, so. So it'd be $29,051.
Okay.
So her salary is about 60,000.
So that's her,
58,000.
About 57, but we're paying a little under that because she does additional days, so if we back that out.
and we're also paying for the course? Are we paying for her courses that she's taking?
Well, she gets she can take 2 college courses a year as one of her teaching benefits. So yes, we're paying for those 2 courses.
And she
But the
probably,
rest she's
she
paying.
would probably wouldn't be able to take 2 full college courses if she was teaching full-time, would she?
Well, it's been
could.
done.
Oh, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
been done, but it's not
All
the
right.
easiest thing on
And
the
then
planet.
when she finishes this course, does her step change? Does she qualify for higher income? Do they do a step?
They
do a
don't.
step.
No, there's,
She's-
is she contracted?
She's already at the step
No,
right below the
she's-
doctorate.
Yeah, she's,
It wouldn't give her a doctorate, no.
She's probably at the top already.
And does she sign a contract if you're giving her a
Yeah, she
sabbatical
has
and
to
so
come with us
forth?
stay with us for 2 years.
She has to stay just for 2 years.
At least 2 years, yeah. But she's, I don't think,
I'm not sure if she's on.
my best guess is that she's a lifer.
She's like
She really likes
another
Newmarket.
Okay.
May 30 boards.
How long has she been here now?
She's Danielle's, how long has Danielle been here? Does anyone know? 10
Christine
years
does.
probably?
Yeah, she's not going anywhere.
She had an opportunity to leave us 2 years
Right.
ago at a higher salary, and she turned it down.
yeah, she's been here 9 years.
So the way sabbatical works, if they have to stay for 2 years after they return, or else pay us full back.
Yeah, there's-
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Jean.
You okay on that?
I think we are. I remember this discussion last year.
Yeah, it was,
It's
yeah.
consistent with what I remember.
Okay. I
Because-
just wanted to point it out just because you
No,
had
yeah,
mentioned it.
Yeah, I got confused,
No, yeah.
because last year we weren't, I don't think we were using contracted services to replace her, but now we are this year.
I think you had it, actually, you didn't, but you had explained all of this last year.
Right. So just a little further down, you see the first 2140, 112. This is where the psychologist line is. And we have, and if you look at the narrative down below, we have 1.9 FTE. So it includes additional days beyond what's in the contract in the teacher scale. And it includes a year-long substitute psychologist. Correct?
Correct. It's a different number of days. The days
Yeah.
change. It's not the same. It would be for, we did, it's 181 days an hourly rate. But it's only was it 2 hours a day? For the contract, for that gentleman that we're bringing in to replace?
It's 2 days a week.
2 days a week?
Yeah.
2 days a week, so it's not
2 days a week.
correct.
Yeah. The substitute is just doing her counseling load and doing it all chunked into time. We tried to do it as cheaply as we possibly could. And then we have the other
Contract services
services
picks
that
up
will
the
pick
rest.
up the testing as we need it. And we have another school psychologist who we double up and do everything she can. We're just trying to do it as inexpensively as possible.
Yeah, that's right.
So then how many years would she, if you figure we can save around 30,000 a year once she gets this degree that we wouldn't have to pay for, if we're paying for her half a year's salary and we have to pay this gentleman to replace her plus private contracted services, how many years does she have to stay before we realize that $30,000 a year payback?
She'll get 30,000 the first year and 30,000 the second year.
Yeah, but it's
30,000
costing
the third
us.
year. Pardon?
Yeah, it's gonna be like 3 or 4 years before we actually see a return on the dollar, basically. Because even if she has to stay for 2 years,
It's actually not much more than what it would cost if she was here full time.
Almost 2 years.
It's about 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
It pretty much washes out after
It almost washes out because the
Yeah.
person who's replacing her is not, she's at almost a doctoral level, she's at that advanced level.
Masters plus 30 and.
Yeah, and
right.
this person who's replacing her is just at a master's level, so they're lower on the pay scale. Plus, they're only part-time, they don't get benefits. The person who's replacing them doesn't get benefits because they're only working 2 days a week. So if you look at all of that, it really isn't all that much extra money. Because she's getting paid half the salary.
right. Okay.
So we're actually being very economical.
I mean, it looks like right now, there's a savings of $26,000 between what was approved last year and what's being approved, what's proposed now for the health insurance and this land. Because of the reduced function. or
Yeah, because
capacity.
we're looking at paying someone who costs less money just to come and do the counseling. And we're gonna rely on the other counselor. The other thing we're gonna rely on is a counseling intern. We have one this year, and we're opening ourselves up to have another one next year. And that counseling intern will pick up some of the psychology intern, excuse me, not a counseling intern, a psychology intern, who'll be picking up some of the testing. She'll do it under the supervision of our other school psychologist. And that will cost us anything, and we'll be providing her with education so she gets hours towards her license.
I'm listening, I'm just getting colder.
No, it's better, it's pretty.
I might put my hat on.
This is really tough.
Well, that's where most of the heat's escaping.
I have it worse, Brian.
More than 100 watts.
Okay, let me move on to page 33
Please
then.
go ahead.
We get into the 2210, and this is where curriculum instruction, things are listed, and the director of curriculum instruction is an administrator who works a 200-day contract for the SAU. And then you see all of the salary, all of the benefits, things that are related. You get down to 643, information access. It's a component of technology. There are a variety of different online databases and resources that we use to help us perform the curriculum coordination function. Some of it, NEWA, for example, is student testing. Alex is an instructional program that assesses students and then assists in instructing them. Curriculum Connector helps us do curriculum mapping, which is important. And so all of those are listed there. Ames Web is again another standards-based testing program we have to assess student performance. So there's quite a few things in that 643.
Good, Dan.
Under your technology operation,
Yep, I was just about to
operations,
do
okay, I read that wrong. I first thought it said technology operator, which I thought was an IT person.
Right.
Do you have an IT person? Is that what that is, technology, director of technology?
It's we have a technology operations manager position, and then a data manager position, and then one that was not listed here, but I think in the elementary was a technology integrator position. So in terms of technology, there are 3. Last year, we also had an additional position. It was mostly teaching, but it was a director of instructional technology.
Yeah, you made some changes, I remember.
And I
that from
did
last year.
because when we went to block schedule, we needed to fill that person's schedule out with all classes. So we couldn't carve out an administrative piece for him.
Right.
And so we did without it. And now, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to get 4
Yeah.
teachers to kind of pick up.
Because the reason why I asked that question, so this is the IT person, but earlier I thought you said within the technology department, you only had 1 person. And I was kind of thinking my mind wrap around 1 person for all those computers to
For
oversee?
tech support, for direct full-time tech support, we have 2 people, a director of technology and the data manager position. And they're listed in SAU because they deal with all 3 cost centers. They're everywhere.
Okay, so they're inclusive too.
That's why they're listed
All right,
there.
okay.
Whereas the tech integrator position is not all 3 cost centers. It's because her home base is elementary, we put her in the elementary budget. But she also works at the high school, just junior senior high school.
So do you still have computer labs where there's an instructor within the computer lab?
Yes.
All right, so that's still part of the IT team, right?
It is, but I was talking more about the tech support and leadership role, okay? Teachers that actually teach classes, we did have 2 teachers at the junior senior high. And
When you say taught classes like math or something like that?
no, they
with a
teach computer classes.
Okay, no, I'm talking about a computer lab where somebody goes into the lab to do some work, homework, and they have a problem and the computer can't do something. Is there a tech person there, or is that left up to students?
Sounds like you're talking about like an open lab. If I have
Yeah.
a need, an open lab, we don't have open labs.
Okay, that's my
Yeah.
question. All right, you answered it, thank you.
So, the description, the narrative, is there anybody else, sorry? Okay, the narrative for 112 says that the director of technology position was vacated at the beginning of the year and it's not being funded, so this budget only has a tech integration specialist? Am I reading that right? The $64,000 is just
Yep.
for this one position?
Where are you, Brian?
Oh, that is where it is.
112.
Excuse me. Yes, that is the tech.
The other page?
That is where the tech, I thought it was an
What page?
elementary,
Number.
but now I see.
33.
that.
That's Deb Boatwright.
That's Deb Boatwright, right.
Okay,
And
so,
then the other one
So
is-
she is listed there, not at the elementary.
4,000?
Sorry about that. That's
So-
the 64,000 salary.
all right, and then there's the technology operations manager?
And those are our 2 tech support people.
And are those positions currently filled?
We have a vacancy that we're working on right now. We had a resignation at the end of November.
And that is the technology operations manager, I'm assuming?
That was in the
Yes.
tech operations
Yep.
manager.
Okay, so just help me understand the difference between the technology operations manager, who's in charge of all the technology?
That's what I wanted to know.
Because these titles are pretty darn similar.
It was divided. There was instructional technology is a whole, instructional technology is a whole subset of technology that it's rare you find someone who has that expertise and knows how to manage networks and repair computer
Yeah,
problems,
yeah.
okay?
That's
So
the
that's why we
person-
split them up.
I don't consider the people doing the curriculum to be technology. That's education about
Okay.
technology.
Well,
This is the person, this is the custodian of the digital world that we live
the
in.
network,
The people that know what it means
the network,
when
the
something happens that we have no
infrastructure,
idea.
and that's the line that says technology operations.
That's what.
Okay.
So there are two salaries in there. And by and large, that's what they're doing is tech support.
So, it's tech.
So technology
And,
operation.
and when we get the new computers, they're the ones who
It's with a
upgrade
salary.
them and all that
They
stuff.
get
and
them
put it in
ready
That's the
there.
for
director of
installations and.
No, the technology operations,
Right.
125.
Right.
All right, that helps me.
Sorry.
Can you change that one above the 112, instead of saying director of technology, since you don't have one anymore, change that to like integration specialist?
I would think so.
Or two.
Or
And then
IT
explain-
specialist.
Yeah, curriculum,
That's temporary,
integration,
so-
technology,
Well, it's,
curriculum,
Right, explain a little
integration.
bit
Something
more
that
about
it
that.
separates the two out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is
Integration
confusing.
specialist?
Yeah, technology integration specialist.
Let's do that.
Okay, that's helpful for me.
Sorry. They had both been in there because the director of technology was director of instructional technology.
Which he doesn't agree with.
Which he doesn't. That's our world, that's our world.
TRS
All right,
8.
so
Okay.
We're moving on?
On page 34, 2230 just continues on all of the technology pieces, a lot of which I've already described to you. And then we get to, let's see, 2310 is where you start getting into school board and other related services. So we have to pay them a stipend, a moderator, and checklists, and here's where we pay for Channel 13 and school board stipends and all the related auditing and so forth, things of that expense. And then when you go to page 35, you see it goes on to other kinds of things, all similar. They're basically operational for school board as well as school elections.
Roseanne and Ellen.
What was the, I see a stipend for Channel 13 going from 1,100 to almost 8,000. And then you've probably gone over the 2236.43, going from almost 9,000 to almost 59,000.
Which one was that again?
Just do the last three digits.
643.
Up above.
Yes, and the information one, the 643, I mentioned that when I did elementary, that previously the expense used to be distributed amongst all three cost centers,
Okay.
2 schools and SAU, and now we just lump them all into SAU. So if you saw the 643s in the 2 schools, you'd see they're zeroed out.
So then why didn't you put the total 3 from the 3 groups into last year's actuals as well?
Because it wasn't on
Because
those
that wasn't where it
numbers.
was-
That's
charged
not
to.
how it was. Have to represent what
I get it.
was.
Yeah, the numbers were different.
They would have had to go
Cost
back
centers.
after the audit period's closed and
Right.
do artificial changes.
Can't do that.
And then what about the large increase in stipends for Channel 13?
One of the things that we began doing, because the Comcast cable contract with the town enabled, it was a 7-year agreement that began, I think, 3 years ago, and enabled $10,000 a year to be directed to the schools for the purpose of establishing a second cable channel here in Newmarket, one purely for education. And it made sense to us to grow to that point, not to have it say, okay, we've got a channel and then not have programming. So what we've done with that $10,000 and even with some district money is purchase equipment and then so we've done that in each of the years, but then what we've also done is we've created a media, is that what we call it, video production club. So this person goes in and works with students, trains students, and then they go individually or sometimes as a team. And so they're doing a lot more educational programming. And I imagine you see a lot of the fruits of that on TV. And so that carries with it additional expense in terms of the increased hours and stipend for supervising students.
Thank you.
So, those programs, they can be townwide, they're not just school, could they be townwide
They're
events too?
townwide, right, and
Yeah.
the students go and do townwide things, you know, like the festival and all that stuff, they do. And I have a proposal into town council right now to use our remaining funds, partner with funds from that the town gets, to purchase the equipment that'll allow us to do live productions anywhere, from anywhere. I mean, we could go to a state championship game and do a live production, we can go to anything in town. An example, what we're trying to do, I don't know if we're gonna make it, is get that equipment in time so that when we do the deliberative session, we can do it live from the high school. That was our game plan all along, get the equipment in time, train on it, and be able to do that meeting live. So we can do anything live, and that we don't have that capacity right now. Not easily anyway.
Isn't, to me, I mean, we have Chris that comes down and does that, that's just duplicity. And we've been talking a lot through the rec department and through the school, not to duplicate what the rec department's doing in conjunction with your doing and so forth and so on, to save money, and that you don't, everybody gets a smaller piece of the pie. Is that a good way to spend money when we already have someone that does that?
This is Chris. This money goes to Chris. It's over and above what he has done for us in the past. In previous years, basically, all it was doing school board meetings for us. That's why it's a very small amount. But now it's a lot of other educational programming that we're asking of him, as well as supervising, you know, some junior high and some high school students on site.
So he would be doing that, and he
Yes.
would be getting paid from the school budget portion of it, that's why it's here?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Yes, he does.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. Okay.
I thought you were gonna have students doing it. but
He does
accompany
train
them.
students.
He trains them,
And what
okay.
we did with the monies, we bought multiple cameras, so he can go out and do a multiple camera shoot and has the equipment to control which camera's on and which one's off, so.
right.
And so the kids are really learning a lot from it.
Yeah, the ability to broadcast live. If I remember a couple of years ago, I think Chris had put that into the budget with Mr. Wanowski, and I think it actually got taken out. But I'm glad to see
Yeah.
it back in one sense because it's a shared cost. That's what I was advocating
Yes.
way back then, because knowing full well that piece of equipment is not going to be used just for the town.
Yeah, this is a
It's going to
shared.
be used all around, so the shared cost makes sense, and I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, it's about a, I forget how much it is, I think, I don't even want to say what it is, but it's all the money that we've got, and then the town is putting in an amount that's almost matching, and because it's expensive equipment.
Yep,
That's good.
that is good.
Yeah. Town council's got to approve it.
Amy has a question.
Oh, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
That's okay. When and if this goes through with the purchase, because it's a shared expense, is there joint ownership between the town company and the school company, so to speak? I mean, who has possession of?
We're all one. That's our agreement. I mean, we store all of the equipment here, the students he trains are down here.
That's what
We're all
I'm
one.
asking, it's just what is the
Yeah.
disposition? I mean, obviously, we know Chris doesn't just live down here, I
Right.
get
Right,
that.
yeah, no, it's
Okay.
not been a problem, nor do I anticipate that.
Thank you.
All right, so page 35.
Okay, so 35, again, I've explained most of those 2310s at the beginning, they're straightforward. Then you get to 2320, which is
Well,
more.
The severance payouts.
Nah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me.
That's kind of a good one to skip over.
Whoa.
I gotta slow down.
Is that the retirement payment
That's
for
right.
people that are retiring and they're related?
In past years, first of all, we didn't encounter a lot of severance payouts, but it was never really budgeted.
Right.
And when it happened, they just found money in the budget and made it happen. But now we've got a much tighter budget, and we think we've got a bigger liability as we move out over the years. So it's important that we budget for this, and so that's what you see there. So you see a figure that's revised for this year. You know, and so that's real costs, and we already have notifications about next year severance payouts, and it's a total of $85,650, and that's actual cost.
Do we know the, Christine, do you know the total liability we currently have for severance payouts?
I do, it's about $422,000.
And so after next year, it would be less? Because we're paying this out, or is it going up each year because of the accumulated?
It it's playing it forward, if you will, because we pay off some, but then some we'll have new that roll up into that. Or
So
who newly, I can't even talk this morning, who will be eligible will come in. So there will be a little offset, but it's not.
well, it should drop, but it shouldn't be absorbing
Yeah.
it. So is there a building or state law to create a fund specifically to deal with this? Where we could set aside $25,000 or $50,000 and put it in the fund, and then
Yeah,
You can.
so it doesn't go into the surplus at the end of the year, because can that happen with this
No,
line item?
this would not go back into the fund balance because that is a true number. We have to receive notification from the staff by October 1st of their intent to retire, so we can properly budget for it. So this number is being
they can't
paid
tell you
out.
July 1st and then retire July 2nd.
Right.
And
Okay.
expect
So this
themselves.
is not anything that would ever get,
This cannot get, this 85,000 has to be used for that specific purpose only. It can't get reabsorbed in any other way, shape, or form. It's earmarked for that and that only.
no, that's not
Teachers have
true.
already given us their intent to retire, the board has accepted them.
You're talking two
Say if-
different things, I
Say if
think.
someone doesn't, they
If-
decide not to.
If somebody
retire,
rescinds
say-
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that money can be used for whatever
Right.
the school board decides to
Okay.
use that for.
That's why we should do what Brian said and get a reserve so that
So you're
that
gonna
doesn't
support a
happen.
warrant article to put
That's
$400,000
another warrant.
on reserve?
No, not 400,000 like you said.
I'm just saying, that's what that liability is.
So what would be the
Yeah.
difference of putting it into
Yeah.
a reserve versus putting
Yeah,
it into
and
the
it's
budget?
still raising taxes.
Because the reserve.
Because you know you're gonna spend it.
Don't spend
I guess, I think, Roseanne, that would be a concern if there was a consistent history of a teacher saying, I'm gonna retire and then rescinding.
It's rare.
That doesn't happen.
It's very rare, because their intent is usually they want to take these payments over multiple years.
Okay, so now.
Because it reduces their tax
So
liability.
it's
It
a-
does, so-
it is a liability. So now they get a severance of, it tells you what it is for so many years, 600 or 900 per year. And then do the teachers also get a longevity? I know the town employees get a longevity for each year that you hear each year, not a severance. They also get a longevity.
That's correct.
Okay, and then they also get that bonus thing that everybody's been having a
It's
problem
not a
with.
bonus, it's an incentive.
At the incentive bonus. So
Okay.
what
Just an earned
does?
incentive.
Okay, so wait, hold on, Roseanne, just to be clear for everybody, this line item is only the severance payout.
That is
Right,
correct.
It's all it is.
but I mean, I
And it's
think.
binding once they receive payment, I just want to make that clear. So once they start receiving a payment of this severance, it is a binding agreement, they must retire. They can't rescind it after they receive payment.
Severance, longevity, incentive, or whatever you want to call it. And the kids are only getting 20 cents on the dollar because of all of this stuff.
What is
For-
that?
they get-
These are contracts
I
that
know
are
they're
properly
contracts.
negotiated.
They're getting
So
20 cents on the
gotta follow
dollar
through.
to upkeep facilities, to buy equipment, to buy furniture. And I can't reiterate that, I know you're under negotiations, and this isn't fair to the kids. It just isn't. I'm totally get it. Okay, go on.
Ellen had a question.
So it's small potatoes after that conversation, but the next line under other, just in terms of your narrative, it seems like a very odd mix of other. You got like, awards and luncheons, but then it's like architectural services and wetland delineation. It just seems like an odd mix of things.
I agreed when I was reviewing it for this. I think that architectural.
Is that last line not right?
I don't think
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay, because that seemed like a
I've
really
got it
odd
already
combination.
circled here with a question
Okay.
mark.
Yeah, couldn't be right.
Yeah, no, it's not right. We do that elsewhere.
Appraisal to that whole, yeah.
Yeah.
It would be very nice if they did.
If that's all it
Yeah,
costs,
that's
that's
what I was like,
right.
wow.
I don't know, when we do appraisals, it's $3,000 to $5,000.
I know.
Is the health insurance line item up because of a change in status of somebody? It's up by 12,000.
Which line are you? okay.
It would-
211?
It would be two, it would be a change in status for somebody and plus the increase.
Right.
Okay. Just confirming.
Good question.
Are we in the next?
I just was looking at the whole thing. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
in the 2320s, I mean, that encompasses my office and Christine's office, basically. So my salary, hers, secretaries, there are 2 full-time positions and 1 part-time position. And then we pay a custodian, you see that here, and that custodian does our offices here at the SAU office.
I have a question about that. So is that one of the custodians that also works at the school then?
No, he's just a part-time custodian that just does SAU.
Is
He
there
does
any,
the town.
have you ever talked with the
He
town
may,
about?
he may work for the town.
Yeah,
too.
he does
Does
the
work
town.
for the
He works
Okay,
for
so
the town.
that's my question.
Yes,
It's the
yes.
same
This
guy.
is-
Okay.
That'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah, when
Hey
it-
Joe, how's it going, Frank?
Yeah.
Good,
He
that's
does
what
the
I want.
town, yes.
I'm back in this side. you
Same guy.
bet.
You know, I've been
You
here
missed
since
the
late
spot
nights,
on
I've
yellow.
yet to see
I
that
ha-
gentleman, so I don't know
I don't
what
run
time
into
he
him
comes
much
in.
anymore. In fact,
He's a morning guy.
I've been here 11 o'clock at night, he's
no,
still
he's
not
here
here.
at night.
Oh, he's here at night.
His
No.
day job is over in Exeter, and I see him sometimes.
Oh,
I
my.
see him
You
on
see him
school
in Exeter, you
technology.
don't see him here.
Yeah, he's like ghost. I come in and I clean him.
Okay.
Are we ready to?
So yeah, so that's all that remains on that page, it's just the 5 positions I just described.
What's the next page?
Page 36,
Are we getting to the end here somewhere?
get close.
There's only a couple of pages. Oh,
At
this.
At the top of, at the first account on page 36 is labeled negotiations. And as you read through the narrative down below, what that is not set aside for teacher negotiations, but it is set aside to settle contracts with the people that I call individual contracted employees. They're not all administrators, some of them are, but they're not all. We have some other assistant or positions. I've got the list for you there. My secretary, for example, is on an individual contract. The payroll person is on an individual contract. And so they don't have, as others do, a pay scale. They simply have whatever the board will allow for any pay increase, be it for equity or performance. And so this year, the board has supported the amount of just over $28,000 to deal with those 18 positions. As you see listed there, many of them, in fact, there were no performance raises last year. And there was only, I believe, around $10,000 approved for some more equity adjustments, people whose salaries are really way out of line with other salaries in our school district.
There's a puzzled face over there, but no hand.
Well,
Go ahead.
if I recall last year, there was a fund that was set up exactly for that reason.
We cut that.
And we axed it.
We cut it.
Yeah,
We cut it out.
We suggested it was cut and apparently it wasn't.
Okay.
Let's see, telephone, we've already explained the telephone, there's a big jump there in expense.
Did the town start charging the district for energy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're paying for this, all this warmth you feel.
How was the decision made? I mean, this is probably more of a school board issue, so I'm just going to mention it. How is the decision made that certain positions are contract and certain ones are not? Has it just been kind of the way you inherited it? Because to me, it doesn't make sense that certain
When they're-
positions are contract, but
Well,
certain ones over there are at the same time.
It basically is this. First of all, they're not going to be in the teacher's contract, so they're not in a collective bargaining. The only other groups that we have are classified employees, which are custodial, food service, administrative assistants, paraprofessionals. So if it's something that falls really outside of the range of those, whether it's administrative or not, then it becomes an individual contract. It's just so unique, it's not in a group.
I think the challenge that represents is the ability to determine what's a fair number is really hard to know, because there's nothing that guides it other than what you as the superintendent or the principal or whoever is making the decision thinks. And also, it's greatly influenced by the ability of the person in the job to negotiate for their salary. And I'm not sure that's fair for anybody. For the person who's the employee.
Well, I don't know. Personally, I do think it's fair. And they negotiate salaries and other benefits through me. with, with some guidelines from the school board. We do have guidance. I mean, example, my salary, it's very easy to compare with other superintendents. I will tell you that my secretary and the payroll person that are in here, comparable positions on the town side are paid a lot more. We're underpaid compared to them, if you were to look. And so that's, when I talk about equity raises, that's one of the things I talk about. When we've got comparable roles on the town side and the school side, and they're very different. And so we
But
do get.
That also feeds into the argument that if you had a set salary schedule that everybody knew in advance what it was, that you'd be able to compare it
You'd
more
be there.
apples to apples. And you've heard from the budget committee that we think similar positions in either function of government should be similarly paid.
Yeah, but there are very few. I mean, those are two that fit, but they're very few. I mean, my role and the town manager role, example. So it's.
Okay. It's a school board policy more. I just wanted to understand.
Yeah, so. Let's see,
questions, comments?
that's all on that page, I think. Any other questions on that page? On page 37, we get to the administrative part of special education. So you have the Director of Student Services, and she is supported by a secretary. And the rest of that is pretty much benefits for the two people, and then a few office expenditures. The very last line are all the insurances that we have, property liability insurance, and we anticipate a 5% increase. Okay, on page 37. Page 38, this is where you get to transportation, as I said before. Regular transportation, again, this is K-12, that's why it's in this budget. So those are our buses for regular ed. We also pay expenses for transporting special needs students. And then the third line is for transportation to and from SST.
That's the anticlimactic end.
That's it. Yes, I'm not going any further unless you ask questions.
I'm sure that.
I have one question.
Yes, please.
No, just a clarification.
Page?
Special, just the same page,
Okay.
38, just wording. Special education transportation, and you just said special needs.
Same thing.
You're considering that the
It's same thing, special education. Students on IEPs, we've talked about different ways to
as
plan it.
opposed to disabilities? I
Well, they're
mean,
the same.
handicapped.
Right, but you could be in special ed and take the regular bus.
Yes, absolutely.
But you could be.
These are students for whom transportation is a
significantly
required
disabled,
part of the life.
like physically,
Yeah.
and need a special bus. So,
That's right.
which
Right.
one of these is it, that line item? Is this for people getting transported to other districts for special services that we can't provide?
Gina-
As well
Gina
as like the
described.
special,
Gina was
This
right.
includes students that are, we have several wheelchair students that are transported to school every day. They have to have a special bus. We also have students that have to ride a smaller bus, have to have restraints on the bus
Yeah.
for reasons. We also transport students who are placed out of district.
okay, so it's all that.
So it's
Right,
all
it's
of
all
that
that.
in one line. Yeah.
But it's not just because you've got an IEP, you get a special
No, no,
bus.
no.
Right, I don't think anyone was understanding.
That was my confusion.
Most of students who are handicapped students with disabilities, special needs, or students on IEP, which are all the same thing. They're just, we use different words, but it's all the same thing. Most of those students ride the regular bus.
That's all special education.
Yeah.
Right.
But most of them ride the special bus. There's only a, the
regular
problem is
bus,
it's
right?
Regular bus.
the regular bus. Is
Right.
that what I said?
No.
Well, most of them ride the regular bus.
It's okay.
Sorry.
I think we got
Most of them ride the regular
it.
bus.
We
I
understand.
mean, it's punchy. But, the special transportation is
Yeah.
expensive per student because we have
Almost
to
like half
have,
a million dollars.
all these requirements and it costs a fortune.
Okay.
All set?
I'm looking to see if there's any more questions.
I could probably put one out there. Are there other companies with First Student? I'm in a buying thing here. The first student is it for New Hampshire?
First
is-
student is the only contract when we put out an RFP that bids.
There are very few. There's maybe only 3 providers, I think.
I believe there's
do on that scale.
2.
2.
There's 2
Just
that
2.
in this area. The other one is not even feasible
Not
because
even
of where they're
feasible.
located. It would be too cost.
Okay, so it's pretty much they.
But they're the only provider that, yeah, it's kind of a little niche at the moment. They're working on it. I've been to some conferences and everybody knows kind of a little niche, so they're working their way up here from Massachusetts. So in another year or 2, I hope that there'll be some competition.
Maybe not, will be regulation, so to speak.
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
It's like cable.
Yeah.
So I think that the next meeting we have scheduled is January 7th and then January 8th. And I'll be working with Stephen Froner and Jim Hayes to figure out which night, but I think we'll do one on one night, unless we think it's going to be so short that we could do both in one night. But what we have left to do on both ends is kind of wrap up on questions that we're still waiting for responses on, which I'm not sure what they are, but there might be some. The warrant articles, which,
We have put out today, I think, some questions.
and the
Answers
revenues.
to
Well,
questions.
right, but there might be other questions, I don't know.
Oh, I didn't know if we were
Christine's
still
got
waiting
them all.
for that, so.
And there might be other questions that come up when people are, hear from friends or neighbors, or they look at the stuff more.
Send them to us and we'll turn them around as quick as we can.
And then on the town side, we have the revenue has to be provided again, the warrant articles, which there's gonna be some substantive ones, most likely, that will probably take quite a bit of discussion. So I think we're gonna use both those nights and do like the town on one night and the school on the next night.
I think that.
Although,
That sounds like a safer plan. I
And
mean,
it's
so
safer for
if
your
we finish
scheduling
early, we
purposes.
finish
Yeah,
early,
rather
but
than
it
your
seems like
money.
it's safer to not waste your,
I agree.
your time.
Rush
or-
it.
No, we won't do that in one.
there's not gonna be a warrant article this year about a school
No.
building? Because if you're gonna do that, then we need to have a meeting just,
Yeah, just on that one. I know. No, we're not.
but,
So we're looking up for a motion to adjourn.
well, is there anything else that you think we need to make sure we address at that meeting? On the revenues, we went through, but we'll probably have questions about that again.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. And I think we
The
should
warrant
have a
articles.
clearer picture of the warrant.
Yeah, well, you'll know after January 2nd if you're gonna have a contract.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
We all
so,
hope
so an update on that obviously would be what
Oh,
we're
yeah.
doing is if you can, or an
Yeah,
update
well,
saying, I don't know.
they have to, my understanding, is I think they have to ratify, we have to have a decision before January 8th.
They might,
You don't have, I don't.
Well,
I
we don't have to,
You
but-
don't have to ratify, you just
Tell them.
have to
No.
have the meeting posted and you have to make it clear that there's an intention, there is a potential warrant article. And if we can state the range of what the potential salaries impact would be, we would do it at the public hearing. But they don't officially have to ratify it by
that's
the
true.
8th.
And the insurance as well.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, the whole
All
pack,
the
the
whole
whole
cost.
package.
Total cost.
Thank you.
And with the
Whole
extent
cost,
that we
Right,
thank
total
you.
cost.
To the extent that we can, absolutely.
well, I think that's it, so thank you to the staff and you all for coming, and to the town employees that did one year before, and I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Just, Brian, I'll let public know if they don't see me. I will be out until January 28th. So it'll be, I think it's one of those stations, we have a meeting, so I'll be out until then. Because I'm gonna be immobile for at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
Unless somebody wants to drive by, I think they will.
I'll pick you up. Good time to
There's
kill
only a
between
couple of us
4
that
and
walk through
6:30.
neighborhoods, so I'm sure we can
So
take
I've
care
got
of
plenty of
that.
that.
It would be good to have a full contingent, so with that.
I've got
we're-
tom-toms, so I'll
Okay,
find
We'll
you.
leave that open then. But the
Well, you told me the
7th
7th and 8th you wouldn't be here.
Right, the 7th is the day of the surgery.
So is there a motion to adjourn?
I so, what, you want?
So moved.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I live up in the
Aye.
fourth quarter.
Opposed?
Just give me a.
Thank you, everybody.